Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
On the slide, there's Harper Murray with the solo block and shut that down. Mark is a freshman setter out of Frisco, Texas. Runs the slide. What a save by Rodriguez.
Strider with the pitch. Paul Goldschmidt swings, and he hits the ball left field. That's deep down the line, and it's a goner. Goldschmidt goes after the first pitch and hits his 23rd home run. 2-0 Cardinals against Spencer Strider.
Here it is. Driven to left field. Did he do it? Did he do it? Yes, he did. Grand slam. Jose Abreu. 7-1.
Swing the ground ball, chop toward the middle, out through into center field. It's a walk-off game-winning single for the rookie Jacob Young. Carter Keyboom scores, and a Curly W's in the books. The Nationals out to first to mob Jacob Young, who chopped it up the middle with the infield drawn in onto the center field for a walk-off game-winning single.
Again, they have great players. I think I have competitive players that will be ready to make plays and go to war, and we'll see how it turns out. We'll have bad plays. I'm sure it happens every game. So I don't want him to get too high. I don't want him to get too low. I just want to have him take the same approach that he's taken since the spring, since I got him. You know, I'm proud of him, and I'm proud of the rest of the group.
Here we go on a Thursday on the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla. Welcome in. I'm Ravi Lulla. That is DB.
What up?
We got a lot going on today.
We do. You know, more football. I still have one foot in baseball too, so like that keeps me
okay.
Like balanced. Got some volleyball in last night. I'm very curious about these NFL storylines. So it's a lot going on. Nebraska released their basketball roster, so it's official a couple days ago. Just seeing what's going on. I think soccer, Nebraska soccer is going tonight. I still have a little soft spot in my heart for that. Coach Walker and company. Blame Canada. You know,
that might have been one of the best time drops like of all time.
Yeah, Shane.
That was a good one.
Shane has a good time, you know,
getting
under my skin. So
the timing on that one was immaculate.
God bless our producer. Right? Without him, there is no us.
That's Shane Schillerberg. That we keep him in the little Charlie Brown treehouse over there.
He said they were going to make that thing bigger.
I don't think they did.
No, I don't either. What happened to that design or that plan, Shane? Do you know?
I think there was just too much going on with everything that we had going on.
Got that right.
With the renovation.
That was
making
circus.
It the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill now. So, but maybe in the future.
Maybe next time.
Yeah, maybe next time.
Immaculate in here.
No, it looks incredible. That's where we're live from the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, the H&H Chevrolet studio. You can hear us on AM 590 ESPN Omaha or ESPN Tri-Cities out in central Nebraska.
What's up, Tri-Cities?
Our good friends out there in central Nebraska. You'll be out there in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Going out to Kearney.
Yes, indeed. They got a big one coming up, so we'll see where their football team, one of the few undefeateds left. I think they're 6 in Class A.
Yeah, so we got that number wrong yesterday.
You said 4, right?
We were going off of the rankings. There's like North Star's not ranked. I think there's another undefeated team that's not ranked right now at 2-0. But we were off of the top 10. There's only 4 still undefeated, which is kind of crazy to think about. Only 2 games in for most people to the season.
I got a couple good ones coming up. I think Burke Millard West will be interesting. Millard West handling a big win.
Mm-hmm.
See where they're at today. I think Kearney plays North Star.
I believe that's right.
Is that right?
I think
do the Bearcats have North Star, which wouldn't normally be on my radar, but I think they do. Is that am I misremembering?
I'm looking it up right now. If that's accurate, then it's 2 of the last handful of undefeated teams.
Yeah, something's going to give tonight, right? Or Friday or whatever day that is.
Oh, sorry, that took me to Kearney, Missouri. That's
no,
not
you
help.
don't want to do that.
I don't want to go to Kearney, Missouri.
Yeah, they have North Star.
I didn't even
Let's
know
go.
that was a place.
Chalk one up for ODB.
Yeah, I mean your recall's pretty good. I was trusting you on that. So you've got Kearney and North Star. Obviously, you guys have the big game tomorrow between 1 and 2 preseason. West Side and Bellevue West.
You know what's funny about preparation? Tuesday was, and I'm not blowing. Yeah, I'm shoot you straight. There are no real secrets. Was arguably one of the worst practices we've ever had.
Really?
I felt like, right?
Yeah.
So I'm talking to Coach Queen, and I'm like, man, maybe we're putting too much in.
Yeah.
Right? Like we got to dial it down. And he's like, no, let's just take a look at the film. Maybe it's not as bad as we think. Right. So obviously we're going through practice tape. Come back yesterday morning. We're like, no, it was better than we thought. Yesterday was about as good a practice as I've seen us have. Super high tempo, flying around. We always wrestle. And Coach Rhule talked about this a little bit. We always wrestle sometimes with like practice format and what's best. And sometimes offense wants to go. Sometimes it's an offensive emphasis day. Sometimes it's a defensive emphasis day. But we've really tried to go 50-50, right?
Get that balance.
Our rotation is who goes first, right? Because sometimes when you have kids that go both ways, like the second half of a practice can be.
Right, you got some fatigue going on.
But, we kind of learned to, we'll do special teams at the beginning. Sometimes we condition in the middle. Sometimes we do special teams in the middle. So we kind of keep it. We keep it super fresh. And I feel good. I think they're anxious to get on the road.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's – sometimes I think we act like we're not the defending state champs. Because they're mad.
A little chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, what are you mad at them for? Right?
Yeah.
Like it's just but it's okay, right? It's
well, you got to motivate yourself however you can, right?
And I think for whatever the reason, it's not like we don't have guys with offers.
Yeah,
because we do. We have several. We had Christian Jones just got another one yesterday from Washington, right?
I mean, you've got a guy that's committed to Notre Dame right now.
Yeah. Right, like that's
a pretty good offer.
It's a decent,
not
school.
A bad offer.
But for some reason, man, they have rallied around this whole big time, set the stage, the triplets, because that's all we heard about for like
3 Nebraska commits
for like a month.
Yeah,
and it's still just stuck in their crawl. So I think it's been.
Is it the quarterback thing? Is that where it really?
Yeah,
lands?
it's a lot of it.
Because
I'm not going to blow smoke, right?
Right,
that's a lot of it.
Because I mean. Okay, Caleb has whatever offers he could want. Christian Jones has whatever offers he could want.
It's a quarterback.
Teddy Rizak has all the offers he could want, as we mentioned, committed to Notre Dame.
Keenan Cotton's got offers.
Yeah, Cotton's got offers.
They all do. Hurst, Okafor.
Probably going to get more.
Yeah.
But it's
100%.
A-Train at QB there, who
100%.
You guys would ride or die with over everybody.
Yep.
And I mean, maybe you would have taken Zane Flores last year. Whatever. This year,
how about Wilcox off his start at Gretna?
No,
it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's impressive.
But
those are big shoes to fill.
You know what's funny, and sometimes I get teased because there's just a couple things about Gretna I really really like, and he's one of them. He used to play summer basketball. With Caleb, and we played against him for so long. We got to play with him a couple of summers ago, and it's like I just fell in love, right, with just his competitiveness, and he's really unselfish. And this is weird, right? Because we're gonna get into this with Nebraska and Colorado, and when your players kind of embody what your team is, you hope it's like on a good, sturdy, solid kind of look. Like if that's going to be our representative, if these are our representatives, are they who we want you to know about our school?
Sure.
Right. Like Wilcoxon's that guy, right? Like just like Rizak for as Hollywood high as people
think Westside is.
Yeah. You just watch it. It's a lot more blue. Nobody says anything on social media. Like it's just very is very businesslike.
It's funny because there's other people that I do see a lot of things on social media.
Yeah, and I mean to each their, like whatever for whatever, but it's just not
not a lot of self-promotion.
No. And
not a lot of
it starts with our guys kind of like it should Shedeur Sanders is the face of Colorado right now, right? Even more so than Hunter, in my opinion.
Yeah,
even though
for sure.
Hunter's the better pro prospect, they both will have their opportunities on Sundays. He's
the face.
Yeah, and that team, the image that is portrayed is a lot like you see his personality, right? And just go around kind of college football and kind of do that litmus test. And I don't think it's any coincidence that if you're looking for style or substance or toughness, or whether a team comes across as, heady or smart or whatever, a lot of times it starts with the personalities of your best players. The Jets come across as a little Hollywood, right? But look at Sauce, look at Reed, look at Rodgers. Like they take on that. They're
not afraid of a camera.
They take on that persona.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think that's interesting. And for Nebraska.
Yeah. See, that's what I was going to ask. So who's that for Nebraska?
So for Nebraska, it's still their coach.
Yeah. Yeah. They haven't had
so,
a player.
so because it's still their coach, they're very reliant on his performance.
Okay.
Does that make? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And until it's a player or players,
right?
We're gonna be kind of guessing week to week until
somebody steps up.
A player's personality kind of takes the reins. Right now it's still the coach. It's not even Jeff Sims. We want it to be,
right?
But it's still not Sims.
Well, and when you talk about it from a personality standpoint,
it's interesting.
It is. It almost seems like they almost don't even, the way the players talk, it almost seems like they don't even want to be, none of them even want to be that guy.
You could probably make that case.
And I don't know if that's a positive or a negative, or if it's just a reflection of the head coach, right? But sooner or later,
it's got to happen.
It's got to happen in some sense, but could it almost be, hey, the personality doesn't change, it's just the performance that changes? And then that personality gets elevated because of the performance? Because I think in Matt Rhule's perfect world. Now, I don't know him, I don't talk to him, so I'm just speculating here.
Yeah, spitballing.
Yeah, I think from what we've seen of Matt Rhule, from what we think we know about Matt Rhule, I would almost bet that he wants his guys to sound like this, the way they do, just very even keel, kind of parroting the comments we hear from the coaches. It's that common language, everybody's on the same page stuff. I would almost imagine that he would want his best player, no matter if it's Jeff Sims, no matter if it's, Omar Brown, whoever his best player ends up being on the team. I would almost bet he'd prefer they sound exactly the same now as whenever that occurs, and that they just let their play do the talking.
So I think he wants to be blue collar.
Yeah.
What's some other coaching cliches? Lunch pail, hard hat. Can you have that?
Gym rats.
Can you have? He's a gym rat, total gym rat. Although I've learned that doesn't come with a look, in my opinion, because Jordan and Kobe were gym rats.
Yeah, like nobody else ever was.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, I don't know.
No, it's still a cliche term, just in general.
No doubt to me about that.
I know, Coach. I know. So it's like, can you have a blue collar workman like spokesperson?
I think you can.
Can that come across as a personality? Because what you heard Sims say yesterday, kind of in his side sessions, is, look, man, I want to be better for my teammates. Like I want to just keep continuing to mature, and I want to be there for my guys. That's not it's not a headline maker. It's not anything more than, I think, what he wants, the staff wants that team to embody. I was listening to volleyball interviews last night.
Yeah.
Does anybody sound like Coach Cook? Well, they kind of all do, but but volleyball is interesting because they have their own personalities.
Well, so I was just going to go on that. So Coach Cooper's a good example here, because
he's fantastic.
And he uses all the common language that everybody else uses, but he's got a little personality to it.
Oh, man.
I would still say he's a very blue collar type, like go to work type of guy, but there's a little bit more Yeah, personality is really the only word for it. There's a little bit more interesting character behind the blue collar, as opposed to, I think a lot of times people think of blue collar with athletes as, hey, just keep your head down, don't say nothing, just keep your nose to the grindstone, keep grinding. Whereas you can do all of that. Like, find me somebody that works harder than Steph Curry. I dare you.
Yeah. But he doesn't strike you as blue collar, though.
No, he doesn't. But he's got a blue collar work ethic, but he's got a Hollywood personality, right? And you could make an argument. I think I used this example yesterday. You can make an argument that Deion's kind of the same way. Probably an incredibly hard worker to get where he's gotten, right? I don't know how you wouldn't be. Incredibly talented, sure. Like, incredibly gifted.
No, I'm all the way with you.
But in order, I mean, I've heard stories about kind of his interview with Colorado and stuff like that, where how prepared
and
he
detailed
was. And
he
like,
was.
you don't get that. You don't make a hire like Sean Lewis, where you're prying a guy away from a head coaching job to be your offensive coordinator.
Can we pump the brakes on Sean Lewis for a second, though?
Well, listen, I'm not saying he's the second coming, right?
Okay.
All I'm saying is,
I just want to, because I'm still thinking about that conversation we had yesterday comparing Frost to Lewis as an OC.
Yeah,
I still would take Frost.
He's probably got more interesting concepts as an OC.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I want to just like,
Sure.
But here's what I'm saying. He identified a guy that was probably not.
He came from off the grid.
He came from off the radar, especially because you wouldn't think that a head coach at the MAC would take an offensive coordinator job, right? So,
although he is going to parlay this into
he's
whatever
going to get a better job
that
he's going to get a better job than he ever would have.
Yeah, somebody's going to pay him,
right? But he had to, at some point, he had to do the work to understand that Sean Lewis was a guy that was A, possible for him, and B, a good fit for the kind of the guys that he was bringing in. So I give him credit there. But so there's a
Colorado gold, by the way, today. That's cute.
I mean, this wasn't really on purpose. It's just kind of what was clean. It's a little lighter than Colorado gold. I was more going like tennis ball yellow because for my guy Carlos Alcaraz.
I'm with you.
That's more Purdue
guy.
I like I like TFAO. I like Ben Shelton.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, but
Ben, not Blake. You sure?
Yeah, I for sure don't like Blake Shelton.
Shout out.
Yeah, but Gwen's awesome.
But
Stefani, what's wrong with you? Yeah,
you can
sure.
You can have your Blake Shelton. I'll take Gwen every day of the week.
You can keep that.
I'm gonna hard pass on.
Yeah,
both.
you can keep that.
You can keep the whole power.
Yeah, that's a left-hand turn over there at like 126 in Harrison.
No.
Gwen is like third. Gwen is like third and 11. That's a pass all day.
I will take that. I will take that exit every single day.
Man, do you? I'm gonna cheer you on every step of the way.
Drive right on by.
Yeah, holler.
No, I like Alcaraz because he's like a prodigy. He's so good. I can't help it.
Yeah,
I
still remember his interview after Wimbledon where he was like, "I grew up watching you." and Jokic was like,
Djokovic, yeah, he was like, "Oof, that's a slap."
He's like, "Whoa."
Have you seen the? There's this video.
I'm a young 36.
There's this video of I think it's Jabari Smith.
Yeah.
Talking to LeBron.
Not a fan, but go ahead.
No, it has nothing to do with him as a player. But he's talking to LeBron.
Remember when he was going to be good?
Well, that's what they say about everybody in the lottery.
We rapidly just
it's fine. He was talking to LeBron, and he goes, "Hey, my dad played against you in your first game in the NBA." And LeBron's like, "Man, why you gotta say that?"
Yeah. And but it is kind of weird though. It's like, Eric has a son that he's graduated. Like, we played against him, right? And so it's like when you see these guys,
oh yeah,
it's like, am I old? I think I'm old. And now everybody's like, Cluster's oldest kid has been out of school for 7 years.
Yeah, that doesn't make me feel great.
Right?
It's like make me feel great.
I think we're old, but back to the image thing.
Yeah.
And I was kind of joking, but it didn't land well. Right? A couple weeks ago, maybe it was last week early. I get them all confused because all I see on my social media feeds, I swear to goodness, is Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the day that he had Warren Sapp come in and talk to the team.
Yeah.
And they were talking about work, and Deion came in with overalls on.
Yeah.
And he goes, I ordered these, last week or whenever he got them, a couple days ago. And Now, overalls just make me think of work, right? Like when you see somebody in overalls, you just think work. You got to put in the work. You know, you see
when I
overalls.
see somebody in overalls, I think costume.
I think overalls are sweet, man. Like it's like I wish I could pull it off, but I have a real short torso, so it's like anyway.
That's what the straps are for. You can adjust them.
No, but like you're wild. I still need more than the 30-inch inseam to look legit. So, but it's like, you know, and I joked about him saying he bought his son's trucks because when you see a pickup truck, you think work and we got to put in work. And I was like, that was kind of a mixed message, right? Because when I hear you talk about buying their first vehicles being trucks, you bought them.
Feels like entitled.
I lost the whole work sentiment.
Yeah.
But I get the message that he's trying to convey. It just doesn't match what we think his personality is. I don't know how consistent that message is or needs to be when it's coming from your leader, but I feel like it has to do with your level of talent.
Sure.
Right? Like I feel like that your talent is the great equalizer.
Well, that's why Jordan's the outlier, right? Because he is the uber talented guy who also outworked everyone. Like that's why he's the outlier.
So I hate to stay with basketball, but like if Tim Duncan played for anybody else but Pop, would we remember Tim Duncan differently? Because he was highly skilled.
He was super talented.
Way talented.
Super talented. Incredible touch for a big guy.
And we
really
think of him as like this head down, maximized guy that kind of just worked.
Oh, I mean, I think of him as a hard worker, but I mostly think of him as probably the best power forward that's ever lived.
Well, I get that. But what's the pick?
So I think that's part of his personality, though, right? Because he is, and maybe it's Popovich.
Why do we think Tom Brady worked at his craft?
Because he's not super talented.
So talent is kind of the
there's a sliding scale, right? Like if you think that like who's a good example here? Super talented guy. I don't know. Let's say Cam Newton. I have no idea how hard Cam Newton works. None whatsoever. More physically talented than Tom Brady, though, right?
Yeah.
If we probably think that if Cam Newton worked like Tom Brady, his career goes way differently. Even though he won an MVP, even though he made a Super Bowl.
Even though his body broke down at 6'6", 260.
Yeah, because he was used as a battering ram, right? Yeah. But because we see prodigious talent that didn't end up with the same career as multiple Super Bowls and multiple MVPs and 20 years in the league, right? We assume it's because he didn't work as hard. So there is a sliding scale there, but a lot of it is we kind of reverse engineer it from the results, right? Like we don't really know.
Yeah.
Who goes and watches Tom Brady work out? Nobody.
Yeah.
Who goes and watches Cam Newton work out? Nobody.
Yeah. So a couple of the best practice players that I can remember, like Baron Miles was a great practice player.
Okay.
He was talented.
But he's undersized.
Lawrence Phillips was great in practice.
Yeah.
Zach Wiegert was really good. Jason Peter, a great practice player.
Yeah.
Right. I think that when you're really talented and you work hard, those are your elite guys.
Yeah, those are the outliers.
So, that's interesting because maybe we just can't get our mind around once they go from collegiate to pro. Because you'd think Rodgers would have to work at his craft,
and I'm sure he does
because he's super talented.
Yeah. Let's pick this up on the other side. We've got more and Benning and Lulla coming up next.
We will be back in 5 minutes. We will be back in 4 minutes. We will be back in 3 minutes. We will be back in 2 minutes. We will be back in 1 minute. We will be back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
I would say it's a bigger spotlight, but as far as critics wise, I wouldn't really know because I don't really pay attention to that type of stuff. I think just being at Nebraska and knowing how big this fan base is, how much they care about football, that's probably the biggest difference with the spotlight. But other than that, it's really all football at this point.
That's your quarterback, Jeff Sims, bringing us back to the Damon Benning Show with Ravi.
That's my quarterback.
That's my quarterback. I'm not about to go all T.O. on you here.
I love me some meat.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you love you some T.O.
No,
not a big T.O.
No,
guy?
but he didn't bug me like you may think. because when it came to playing,
he was a baller.
He
that
got
dude
it.
Could get it.
Yeah. I'll always remember. I'm riding with competitors.
Kind of sneaky underrated.
Oh, for sure.
Not at the time, but as soon as he retired, he kind of got forgotten
didn't
about.
Age as well as his productivity.
Yeah, and as his peers probably. And it's probably part of the personality thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because we've been talking a lot about kind of the different personalities that sort of are starting to come to define Nebraska, right?
Why are we captivated by Colorado?
Because of the personality.
Because of the personalities.
Right? If Dion has the same personality as...
It's okay if you get on camera. Be productive. You can come all the way around here and set this up like an adult. Nobody cares how you look, okay? But you reaching around like you're about to steal something and don't want my attention is going to drive me crazy. I'm not that professional. Yes, walk your little bow-legged self on over here and fix it. Thank you. This is Shane Schillerberg, everybody.
It's not.
It's the producer.
How you doing, little buddy?
You've never seen him before.
Your good-looking self.
There we
go. You
go.
and Gwen, man. Appreciate you. Oh, you gonna field that punt or catch that pass? Because I'm punting too. My man D-Rock was like mid, super mid.
Yeah, just not.
No disrespect to anybody's tastes out there.
No, I'm just not interested in any of it. Like I'm good. But no, we're.
I'd scoop that ball up off the turf.
No, you wouldn't. You'd fumble that thing like you wouldn't.
Yeah,
believe.
you would fumble the bag.
Make
for
a
sure.
total mess of it.
Probably.
Probably.
I like the self-awareness there, Shane.
Or the lack of self-confidence.
Well,
come on, Shane-o.
Well, I mean, one or the other. They go hand in hand sometimes.
So speaking of personalities, right?
Yeah.
Couple guys we heard from yesterday.
Yeah.
I call him Super Coop. I'm going to be professional and just call him Coach Cooper.
Okay.
And Coach White.
Yeah.
Sports Nightly, fantastic.
Yeah, you're a little enamored with Coach Cooper, to be fair, right?
Yeah, but
I mean, if we're just being transparent.
My two guys both spoke yesterday.
Yeah, Tony White and Coach Coop.
Why do I like Tony?
Is it unprofessional? Call him Coach Coop. Can I call him that?
Yeah. So he was in attendance Friday night.
Yeah.
Against Grand Island, and just had been communicating.
Yeah.
A lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm not going to say it. Schaefer would be so mad at me. He's going to say, you're coming across like Schaefer, you don't have to cuss at me. I know that, I mean, I can't help myself. I'm not going to say it. So obviously recruiting pretty hard, right? Yeah. And so we're going back and forth, and he gets there and lets us know we're coming early. He's coming early and brings the his daughter and his significant other and the wifey and the kids headed off
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool, right? But he's so intense.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew used to always, he's like, man, I want to hang out with Coach Cooper. I said, you're not going to talk about anything other than football.
Yeah.
Like I'm just telling you, like
that's why I wanted to hang out with Foley. Yeah, Foley is going to be a good time.
Yeah, he'll chop it up and you can go get some good Coop is all business.
I just want to talk about barbecue with
like you could say, hey, go this way.
Yeah.
Where your traffic, you want to eat, whatever. And it's okay.
It's always
got
back
you.
To football.
He's going to land the plane quickly.
Yeah.
Right. That's exactly how his guys play.
Yeah.
You got the sense and talk I'm almost enamored.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have taken on his personality. That is a confident bunch.
And capable. Not just confident, but also capable.
But it starts with you have to believe.
Right. You have to believe you can be capable.
And so I'm listening to these two guys talk, and it's like you can totally see why
the defense looked the way it did against
you think
Minnesota.
Nebraska defensively has a chance
absolutely
to be okay.
Well, and I think you gravitated toward Cooper a little bit, and I did too, frankly, because he's intense, but it's kind of compelling.
Yeah.
Right?
So his part of the coaches clinic.
Yeah.
In the off season, even that was intense.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't know what it is, but I think everything he does, he wants to. It's like it's competitive.
Yeah.
It's like he wanted and I don't think he cares about having the best clinic session.
Right.
But he wanted to get right to football. The demo and the the pointer and the tape, that was cool. He wanted questions.
Yeah.
He wanted to talk. He wanted football.
I
Right?
kind of also liked the way in the presser yesterday, because the Malcolm Hartzog play got brought up.
Yeah.
Right. And he didn't go, hey, yeah, we teach to keep outside leverage there. I really need Malcolm to trust where his help is and know where he's going to be weak and where he has to defend against. He goes, no, if his instinct is to do what he did, then I failed him.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure I've ever heard a coach put it like that before.
He didn't. He said he didn't show him enough looks at it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, basically.
He basically said, hey, if I put him out there against that route and his instinct is to bite to the inside, then I failed his preparation, which maybe is true, maybe is not. But to put it on yourself as a coach to say, hey, I have to rep them so much at what I want them to do that it becomes their instinct, it becomes their second nature. It's not that they just can do it or that they're capable of doing it. It's that their nature compels them to do it when they see the look you've prepared them for.
Yeah.
That was really interesting to me.
And it's cool too. We didn't Sunday, we were planning. We didn't tackle as well as I would like. Right. And talking about our youth team, and at halftime, we're kind of doing a couple things. I'm like, hey, they get flat, you get flat. I'm kind of teaching just back to base fundamentals. And I'm like, we got to tackle. And at the very end of the game, I go, hey, listen, fellas. I said, I'm not upset, right? We pitched a shutout. We got to tackle better. I said, but I got to take responsibility for that because we didn't tackle enough, right? We talk a lot about technique and fundamentals. We just didn't physically tackle enough
for them to be comfortable with.
And I don't worry about our toughness because it's a very good defensive football team, right? But there's just parts of that when you see like when it's about other people, like you take ownership of. And I think
because you want them to succeed, right?
And it's weird when you hear coaches talk about what went right and what, always pay attention to the pronouns because usually it's a pretty good indicator of their temperament. Do we get we's and us and they's, or do we get I's or me's, or like pronouns matter because it gives you some insight into their train of thought.
Yeah. How they process what's going on.
Right.
Right. Because if they're using a lot of he or they, then it feels like
there's disassociation
shifting,
and it's
their preparation from the
it's
results.
in your subconscious, right?
Yeah, because it's
like
hard.
It's everybody but them.
You know how smart and quick of a processor you have to be to consciously change that. It's kind of
it has to be what you really think because you're not going to catch it on the fly.
Because if it's not what you really think, you have to be like sociopath level of cognitive dissonance, right? You really do. Like I'm not even kidding. Like there's just a level of disassociation that has to happen that is kind of crazy. So generally, you're right. However they're describing it is how they really feel. So if you hear, yeah, man, he really needed to keep his outside leverage. He really needs to not bite on that fake. He really needs to know where his help is. As opposed to, then you've got kind of the middle ground, which is the we. Hey, we need to do better. We need to rep that more. We need to do this. And then you have the ownership. I failed him by not putting him in those positions. That's on me for not making sure that was his instinct. Like there's subtle, you're all saying the same thing, right? But you mean it in different ways. And that means it looks different behind
and it lands different with players too, because
100%.
If I know you're in the deal, like I've said this 100 times, I'll listen to just about anything you'll tell me if I know you're for me.
If I know you've got my best interest at heart,
you'd be like, DB,
you could tell me just about anything.
DB, and I don't even really care how you say it. You can say, DB, that was one of the dumbest segments I've ever heard you say. Right?
And I might come back to you later and be like, hey, I wish you'd approach this a little
but I
different.
know, like if you're for, like I'm still gonna receive that.
Yeah.
You may have to explain it later,
right.
But it's different than if you're a stranger, right? And you have no context.
Absolutely.
And I think that stuff matters. I'm gonna stay with Coach White though.
We've got more of that on Benning and Lulla coming up next.
We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
I tell Malcolm and whoever else gets beat, that's on me. If I didn't put him in that position to where his reaction to that is second nature, then I didn't do a good enough job. The only thing that they must bring is their effort and their discipline and their violent nature. Like everything else is on me. So that is what it is. I got to do a better job of putting him in that situation and making sure that he aligns where he needs to align. And that is solely on me.
That is Coach Coop, quickly becoming one of our favorite people. Another one of our favorite people.
Quickly.
Well, you know, Marty Cordero, another one of our favorite people, actually going to join us on the show tomorrow to tell you what I'm about to tell you now, and that's to get out to the Omaha Storm Chasers. Their final homestand of the year starts on Tuesday. You got to get out there Tuesday through Sunday, get out to Werner Park, have a good time. You know,
going up on a Tuesday.
It's finally starting to cool off a little bit. Got some nicer temperatures out there. Go out and enjoy some of that fall air here in Omaha, Nebraska, as the Storm Chasers wrap up their season.
And he'll be on Tuesday, not tomorrow.
What day's tomorrow? Friday. He'll be on Tuesday.
Why did you?
I have no idea.
I don't either, but I was vibing right along.
Yeah, you were like, yeah, absolutely. He'll be on tomorrow.
Well, I just, in case I'm in a bad mood, you may need the press to give you a little positive touch.
A little positivity.
Well,
he stays glass half full.
And you know he's listening, so he's going.
No, I doubt it. He's probably in a meeting.
I think he's always in meetings. His Union Omaha had a big win last night.
Yes, the A.
Over North Carolina.
They're getting it in.
It was 7 straight wins.
Yeah, he may be having a meeting with like Yoda or Obi-Wan, or he may be Zooming with checking in on Darth Maul.
Why can't I be in a meeting like that?
You would like to be around Marty. He's a good
dude.
I'm telling you, ultra positive, and you guys could
good dude. You could nerd out on Star Wars.
Goofy language. You're saying, sorry, Marty.
Listen, I'm not hating. I'm a big Star Wars dork too, so I get it.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, no judgment zone. That's kind of surprising, but
really,
yes.
Wow,
there's nothing about you that we've ever talked about that oozes Star Wars. I mean,
I'm not like on the same level as Shane, but
do you have action figures?
No,
not that there's anything wrong.
No,
with that.
I don't have like action figures. I don't have.
Do you have any unopened like
no
stormtrooper?
I'm not a collector.
Okay.
I'm not a collector. Like even with my shoes, right? I'll spend money on shoes. I like a lot of different Jordans and stuff
you
like
actually
that.
wear them.
But I wear them. I'm not a collector.
Yeah.
Stuff that I can't use or wear or whatever, I don't really understand spending money on.
You're very practical.
In that sense, like I'm bougie practical. Like I want nice stuff, but I want to use it. Did I just invent a term, bougie practical?
Yeah. another oxymoron, but hey, it's
well, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
I'll spend money on something, but I'm going to use it.
Okay.
That's kind of how I roll. No, that clip from Coach Cooper there is exactly what I was talking about before we went into the break, right? Is that he's taken ownership of that room. And all he asks of them is what would he say? Energy, discipline, violent nature. Right. Which is kind of one of their
and they are violent.
No, they were popping on
they are
Saturday.
Extremely violent.
Say what you will about however the rest of the Minnesota game went.
Oh, Kim, so can I say something?
Yeah. I mean, it's your radio show. Yeah, go ahead.
No. That's what we're on today. All right, so listen. Why are we acting like Minnesota doesn't have good players?
I would venture to guess
it's really aggravating because
yes.
You guys don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe thing.
Don't you guys me? I didn't do it.
I'm just saying, like, we make it seem so this is what we make it seem like. We make it seem like Colorado is like playing varsity and Minnesota is playing JV.
Yes.
That's not what happened.
No.
Jackson Jr., Crooms, Spanford, they're all Sunday guys.
Yeah, they're super legit. Super legit.
So can we stop with this? Like, oh my gosh, their speed on the outside. Do you see some of those concepts Nebraska was trying to defend? Mm-hmm. They were tough.
Way more complex than what we saw in Colorado.
I was talking to Sharpie in the booth. It's like, Nebraska had to make some decisions at the half as Minnesota was converting third downs, mm-hmm. right? This is real time. I'm telling Sharpie. I said, hey, that kind of this quarters man concept, you have to decide, do you want to play coverage underneath or do you want to bring pressure? Mm-hmm. This is real time during the game.
Yeah.
Nebraska sprinkled in just enough pressure and playing coverage underneath, getting to landmark. It's what I call getting to landmarks from. This is fresh in my mind because we have to be very good at this tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But when you have a team that likes quick game and the little choice routes, mm-hmm. like underneath coverage matters. It's not just about corners and safeties. It's where are my linebackers and what are they doing? Mm-hmm. So Nebraska had some choices to make. What did we hear Coach White? I mean, he's talking over some of our heads because he didn't get specific, but he's like, listen, you know what? I had to get better on third down. Mm-hmm. I have guys upstairs talking to me. We got collab on the sidelines of what we need to do differently. Yes. I should have gotten to it sooner. I didn't, but I'm glad we were able to make the adjustments after the second half. Mm-hmm. Like there's still the ownership. Hey, that's on me. I wish I would have gotten to it sooner for my guys. They were putting us in some conflicts. Like, that's what you want to hear. Mm-hmm. Because that lets me know real time. He knows exactly what's going on. He's not
guessing.
And he's not in over his head.
Yeah.
And I love it because I know how important this is. Like if it used to be it used to be Coach Sortino in the booth talking to me. Now it's Coach Jensen. Like those guys that are in the booth, mm-hmm. that are your eyes so you can do what you do on the field are so important, it's not even funny. And so when he's processing through this and he's trying to find ways to defend Minnesota, we act like those guys aren't good.
Yeah.
And I get Hunter and Edwards and Shedeur Sanders, but can we talk concepts at some point?
I actually would like to talk
can we
concepts.
talk passing game concepts at some point? Because that matters too.
Because you said this earlier.
You're not just about to run by a guy at that level.
No.
Route running matters. Conflict
Unless
matters.
Trey Palmer, apparently.
Like, I'm blown away at how we think Colorado's just about to hand the baton off and run like the 4x1.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
Well, so a couple really, I think, important things you brought up there, right? Colorado's not rolling out like Alabama or Georgia out there, talent-wise.
Dude, it's
right. Like, you can make a pretty good argument that Minnesota has more talent than Colorado. It's at least close.
Top to bottom, for sure.
Like
on
depth
the team?
of talent,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, for
like
sure.
Obviously Travis Hunter is better than anybody on Minnesota.
But he was the best player in
he
the
was
country
literally
coming out
the
of high
top
school.
recruit in the country.
Yeah.
He was committed to Florida State, then switched to Jackson State, right? This isn't your normal FCS transfer. He was the best player in the country.
And it's not our fault. We didn't think Shedeur Sanders was good because he didn't play. He played private school in Texas.
I thought he was.
Did you want him to play against Duncanville and everybody else? Sure. But just because our expectation level was off doesn't mean he's not good. He can play.
I thought he was good against the talent that I saw him against, and I had no idea how that was going to translate, right? That's a fair assessment of Shedeur Sanders. And then Edwards is really, really good also, right? I mean, those are three really good guys, high-level guys. So maybe those three guys are better or at the very top of what Minnesota has.
Yeah.
Hunter certainly is.
But the collection.
But the rest of the roster, I mean, Minnesota's line's dramatically better than Colorado's.
All the way in.
Minnesota depth of talent, I think, dramatically better. I mean, so we talk about all the guys that Dion brought in, right? 86 new guys, 51 out of the transfer portal, whatever, right? How many of those guys do you think are 3 stars? Just if you don't know off the top of your head. Out of the 51 that he brought in from transfers.
3 stars?
How many of them are 3 stars? Which is basically Minnesota level talent, right?
I will say 34.
43. 43 of the 51 are 3 stars. There's also 2 more that are below 3-star. So 45 of the 51 are 3-star or lower. Okay? We're not talking about Bama, Georgia here. We're not talking about LSU.
I just don't know where that narrative came from.
It's because they have 1 5-star who's incredible.
Because they just seem like they were just running wide open, way better than
which
TCU.
Tells you more about TCU than it does Colorado. And listen, I'm not saying some of these guys.
There are some national guys that feel like TCU will be pretty good.
Those national guys, I don't think watch very much.
Well,
football.
they might, because here's the deal: they might end up being okay.
I don't know,
but we're missing like the great big elephant in the room. Okay,
and that TCU played terrible.
I'll give you a local example: Prep, West Side.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate having actual game tape. TCU was guessing.
Sure.
Guessing.
Yeah. Because the Jackson State tape probably not that helpful.
Or you're going back to watch Lewis or Bama
State.
defenses or Kent State offense. Like you're guessing.
Kind of like we were with what Satterfield was going to run here.
Okay. Nebraska's not guessing this week
got it on
for
tape.
Colorado. So don't.
They've got those mesh concepps on tape.
It doesn't mean that they can stop it. It just means like when you're formulating a game plan, you have a chance
You actually know what's happening.
to know what's happening.
Yeah.
Like I'm just I don't know, man. I'm blown away that we just act like we're playing the greatest show on turf. This isn't the St. Louis Rams. This isn't
Circa
Holt,
1999.
right? This isn't Holt,
Bruce, and
Warner,
Asakim,
and Bruce, right? Like,
don't forget my guy Ricky Pro.
and I can say that without saying they're not void of talent because that's a good offensive concept.
This
but
isn't an otherworldly talented football.
there's a reason that the line is only 3.
All right, coming up next, who do we have next?
Dumas, and we're going to talk defensive concepts.
We got our guy Troy Dumas, and then after Troy, I want to talk about some of those offensive concepts we've been talking about. Next on Benning and Lulla.
We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents The Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
Option with Herringer, the quarterback around the corner, inside the 15-yard line, and a first down at the Colorado 14. And the Huskers are now threatened. First down at the Buffalo 14-yard line. Into the middle, Schlesinger, touchdown.
We're pleased with the effort of our players. I think they showed a lot of character today and played very well. And overall, we were just real pleased.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla. We are about to talk to our friend Troy Dumas, former Husker. And
He's here.
We've got hopefully get some great insights from Troy on some of the concepts that are going on in this game here. Troy, how are you today?
Good. How are you guys?
T Doom, what's up, my man? How are things?
Good, man. How are you? I'm hanging in there. How are you?
I'm good. I mean, first, so I know we text early, and this was a while ago, man, but for those that maybe have been living under a rock, congratulations on your Hall of Fame induction, man. Couldn't happen to a more deserving guy. It's weird because I'm just a smidge younger than you, and you taught me like 58% of what I know. I'm proud of you, man. I am.
Man, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that, but
I mean, how
you kind of had a lot to do with it.
No, I did not. We have a very tough committee. There's a lot of consternation and hand wringing.
Well, I'm not talking from a committee standpoint. Okay. I'm talking about from a roommate teammate standpoint.
Oh my dude, isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Like the weird affinity I think that I have for you and some of the guys that we were around was I for a guy that hated discipline for the most part, I loved how you were always invested on wanting guys to be better, like just better people, right? Like I think that's kind of a cool thing that gets overlooked in how we were with one another.
Right. Yeah, it's well, you know, people on the outside looking in, they don't know the true relationships and, you know, the bonds that go on behind the scenes. But I mean, we were together for what, 3 years, 3.5 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Living together. I mean, just trying to get through the process. But I mean, you know, you just supported me. I mean, I remember you just, you know, always trying to keep my head up. You know, my junior year, that was awful. That was a disaster.
Yeah.
In my opinion. But, you know, just you telling me to, you know, have all the tools to be great and, you know, just keep working at it, those kind of things. I mean, you know, that kind of stuff. I don't forget that kind of stuff. I mean,
man, you're good. Don't get me all emotional on a Thursday, man. Like it's all love. It's all love.
Yeah. Let's talk some football.
All right, Troy. I'll try and get us on a football track here. Obviously, congratulations on making the Hall of Fame. That's a huge honor. But I'm been curious, right? Because we saw the kind of gut-wrenching way that Nebraska lost that Minnesota game, and from your playing days to now, obviously things are very different. But kind of going back in your Rolodex here, can you remember kind of a turning point moment during your playing days that you might be able to compare to the opportunity that Nebraska has on Saturday to go from kind of that gut-wrenching loss to potentially a really high-profile win?
Well, going into Saturday's games in comparison, I mean, I don't think there is no comparison as to when we played them back then, going into Saturday. I mean, it was, you know, my freshman year was a tie game, but it was always, we're going down there, you know, to whip your ass, basically. But the game I could probably compare it to would be the Miami game of our senior year, you know, just going in there. Nobody thought we could do it. We believed all that good stuff that Dion's preaching down there. And, you know, we came out with a win. But that's probably the biggest game I could compare it to, just being an underdog like that. I wish we weren't an underdog going into this game, but it is what it is. I think,
sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You can finish. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, you know, you hear the guys talk, Coach Rhule, you know, Coach Sanders about the rivalry, blah, blah, blah. I don't think they really will understand it until they get to the stadium that Saturday morning. I mean, it's just an intense deal. And that's just what it is.
So let me ask you this, because you brought your son down for camp, and I was mad at you because you came in like a thief in the night, in and out in like 18 hours.
Right.
But you get a good feel for style versus substance. Your personality is really, really good about sniffing out phony. When you look at kind of the big personality of Coach Rhule and you pit it against what you hear from Coach Sanders, there's a couple different ways to skin a cat, but you get the sense that both have a lot more substance, even though they're very gifted speakers. What's the difference for you and how they both arrive at the same thing?
Well, I mean, you got to understand where Deion comes from in his college days, back in the early or late 80s, early 90s. Those Florida teams, Florida State teams, Miami teams. I mean, those teams were rowdy back then. Coach Johnson or Coach Bowden, he let those guys be themselves. I mean, all the big personalities, all the chirping. I mean, that's what Deion is incorporating over there in Colorado. That's what he's wanting. I mean, he's doing it, and I think in a respectful manner, more so than the prior coaches that been there. I mean, he just came out and said that he had tremendous amount of respect for Coach Rhule. That's something that Barnett or McCartney would never come out and say.
Yeah.
But you can also tell too, they don't really, they said they understand it, but I truly don't think they understand it until they get there. But, I mean, as far as Deion is concerned, it's the dog mentality, and that's what he's preaching, to those guys. And you're hearing that every day. And they're bringing in guys, they're getting all the recruits, seems like, highest 5-star guys. I mean, the guys that, have the big personalities, and those are the guys that they're going for, all the 5-star guys. So, but on the other hand, it's, Coach Rhule's been through it. He has a system, he turned around Temple, turned around Baylor in a 3-year process. So, we'll find out which works, but I mean, with the portal and all that, I mean, Deion flipped his roster and overnight basically. And I know Coach Rhule, he used the portal quite a bit too, but we'll find out what works. Because I know, I mean, I just hope we don't lose this game. I really don't. I know it's his first year, blah, 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 but I mean, you got the portal and all that. You see coaches coming in their first year, turning around program. It's our turn. Yeah. I mean, it's our turn. And going down there, I mean, if we can go down there and just stomp the fire out, so to speak, and set them back a minute or two and let them deal with reality, because it was one game. It was one game against a horrible defense.
Can you get into that? Because this is dry. I love this because you like coaching, you like scheme, former NFL guy, you understand concepts. Do you have any idea what TCU was doing?
Man, I had no clue what they were doing. I mean, they were playing man free the whole game, but I mean, it was like they weren't getting in. Those receivers were just coming up field unimpeded. I mean, they're fast guys, so you're not getting nothing on them. They're inside linebackers. I'm like, what in the smokes are you guys doing? Yeah. I mean, but the lack of hustle, if you just watch, I mean, they weren't even, no backside help. I mean, nothing. They were just letting those guys run. I mean, they catch the ball, defense would take a couple steps and just let the dude run off. I mean, I couldn't believe that, but it is what it is over there.
So for the offensive concepts, if you look at how Minnesota and their passing game, right, they were really effective on third downs with some of those choice routes, putting Kroom in the slot. Like, they did a good job of isolation. Do you see similar philosophies in Colorado? Is it something altogether different as you watch Minnesota's offense and Colorado's offense?
It's a little different. I mean, Colorado is their true spread. I mean, that's a true spread offense that they're running. I mean, their quick game, that's their run game.
Yeah.
You know, in the quick game, that takes an average offensive line out of the equation. I mean, because you're getting the ball out less than 3 seconds. You know, that was a scheme that we used at SEMO, was a quick game. And we used it because our offensive line wasn't great, but it made our offensive line look great.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But a true spread offense, I mean, they get those guys spread out wide, you know, running the mesh concepts. Those are hard to cover man to man, especially, I mean, if you get in a wide trips bunch formation and the Mike linebacker has to get out.
Yeah, he's stretched, isn't he?
Stretch. So, I mean, it makes it tough, man. They're going to have a solid passing game defense. And D-line, I mean, D-line's got to show up.
Do you like the 3-3-5 concept
today?
With the extra?
Dude, I'm getting used to it. I'm figuring it out. You know, I'm starting to spend more time, you know, breaking it down. But yeah, you can bring some pressures from all over, and I can see where the confusion would come from. But yeah, it's that concept I'm getting used to.
Can you imagine playing in that with your skill set as a second level guy? Like, you got to be looking your
run and hit.
Right. it's a total hit it, split it kind of deal, right? It's like, and
and you gotta be able to run. You gotta be able to run and fill and get there quick. I mean, that's what it is. Yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to play in that type of defense.
Troy, I'm wondering here with those mesh concepts, you mentioned how hard it is to cover those in man. Do you think Nebraska will try and zone up against it? Obviously,
they do play a ton of man.
Obviously, you know, you can still find some of those gaps in the zone, but with the 3-3-5, you mentioned how you can bring pressure from all over. Could Nebraska kind of disguise some of those zones a little bit by maybe dropping guys into coverage that would normally be rushing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, with a 3-3-5, it's a lot like a 3-4. You can balance things up to where it's like, okay, yeah, you have a 2D safety look, and you can bring pressure from both sides. So that's what makes a 3-3-5 great. Is from a pressure standpoint, it can get real confusing, but I think the main thing is going to be the D line. You know, those three guys got to get there, you know, with no help, you know, if they can create pressure, but yeah, they're going to have to bring some blitzes. It's going to be tough depending on what formations they come out in. And that's what makes a true spread tough. You can't bring outside pressure because they're so spread out.
It's interesting.
That's when you got to go to. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
It's interesting because you can bring +1 or +2 pressures and still only have 5 and 6 back in coverage, right? I mean, that's kind of the thing where you don't have to sell out to bring to account for gaps, right? Like that's kind of the beauty of it.
Right. Yeah, that is the beauty of it. You know, being able to bring more than one guy. But it'll be interesting to see, you know, what kind of concepts they're going to come out with defensively. Last week was more of a man-to-man deal. I don't know if we're, you know, a zone blitzing type team or whatnot, or what Coach White has in store, but we got to get some pressure.
Troy, as you hear Coach White and Coach Cooper talk, how much of their personalities do you see reflected in their units?
Well, I love Coach White. I mean, the 10 minutes I talked to him over the summer, I mean, dude's very personable. He knows his stuff. I've been, reading up on his background, but just talking to him, he has that personnel, the on-off switch personality, and he knows how to talk to his players. So I think he's a good fit for what we got going. And Coach Cooper, I mean, he's an NFL guy. So he's seen it. He knows what it looks like. And number 8 is out there dropping hats. So, he's pointing them in the right direction
as
far as being physical and those kind of things. So
if you were going to try to get to the kryptonite, at least early on, and it is just one game, and the just one game goes both ways. So it's just one game for Colorado defensively too, right? If you're Colorado, are you more concerned at the 33 carries for 54 yards or the fact that TCU averaged almost 8 yards per carry?
Oh, I'd have to say them averaging 8 yards per carry. That's not a good stat to have in the run game. But that'd be good for us if we can load the box up and start pounding at these guys. That's something that they're not used to. They practice a spread concept in practice, so there's not a whole lot of hard hitting.
Let's stay right there, Doom. How does 2-back downhill run game change the way that you have to play defensively? Considering most defenses now are worried about east to west and super vertical. How does 2-back run game, do you think, limit what Colorado or some of these lighter, quicker defenses want to do?
You got 2 backs, you can come downhill, baby. You got power run game. I mean, you got power run game, you got counters, you got all of that in there. And that's something that they're not used to seeing. I mean, it's going to be troublesome because they got to figure it out. But not only that, they're getting punished up front.
Yeah, you're going from a zone read concept in week 1 to a team that can run power, blast, ISO. They showed trap like that. That's different.
Oh man, but you know how long it takes to prepare for all of that? I mean, yeah, those are from a linebacker standpoint. I mean, that's a lot of information. A lot of different blocking schemes, inside outside zone isn't necessarily that hard, but once you get the guards pulling, counter, power, that kind of stuff, I mean, linebackers getting caught on blocks, holes opening up, it could be a problem. So,
Troy, what kind of extra challenges it also bring? I mean, Jeff Sims struggled a little bit throwing the ball, but was really good running the ball against Minnesota. You're talking about, okay, you've got the 2-back, you've got some of that downhill power running scheme and how challenging that is for the linebackers. What's the added level of difficulty when you also have to deal with, hey, this is a pretty big physical running quarterback that TCU really didn't bring to the table?
Yeah, I mean, that adds another element to it. I mean, personally, I would like him not to run so much. I mean, just for
I know, me too.
I want him to run more.
I mean, no. I mean, the thing is, I feel a lot more comfortable going in the game if we scored like a couple legitimate touchdowns going in. I mean, last week, that just makes me a little apprehensive this week. It's like, well, dang, we scored on a muffled trick play. We didn't score on any legitimate executed plays. So, that's a little bit of a concern going into the game, but I mean, I'd feel better about the game if we did that. But hopefully, Sims can, eliminate those errors and put some points on the board.
Yeah. You spent a lot of time in that state to the west. What is the anticipation for Colorado? Do you think are folks all in, or is it still is it still Broncos, Nuggets, and it's such a pro state,
dude? But it's so fair weather. I mean, it's outside of the Broncos, but right now, yeah, CU's the hot ticket. Everybody in the nation's talking about them, so everybody's going to go to the game. The bandwagon, it's gotten full because there's a lot of people out here that weren't singing CU's praises for years, but you're seeing the flags out on the cars and people wearing CU shirts everywhere. So I'm hoping we can go out there and stomp the flame out, so to speak, because the fire is getting big. It has gotten real big over one game against a sucky team.
Hey, not pulling any punches there, huh?
It's just good to hear somebody else that actually watches defensive concepts not be able to figure out what TCU was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Whoever that DC was, he needs to be fired.
Well, let Stetson Bennett throw for 8 touchdowns. And not that Stetson. Stetson Bennett is in the league, but come on now. Those guys were running wide open.
Yeah, he should have been fired after that game.
Wow.
Yeah.
Troy, I want to.
Yeah, it's amazing.
We got about a minute and a half here left with you. I'm curious. Going back to the man versus zone thing, obviously TCU ran a ton of man, didn't really go that well for them. Nebraska was primarily man last week against Minnesota. How challenging is it on a defensive side, even if you're still kind of in your same formations, to go from a man cover concept to a zone?
Well, it's not hard if you got the guy, everybody's on the same page. That's the problem, communication-wise. There's a lot of breakdown that can happen when you're going from zone to man. But if everybody's out there knowing what they're doing, it's not that big of a challenge, really. I think the challenge will be mixing in zone coverage with man on Saturday.
What's your gut tell you happens? I don't think they score a ton of points. Am I crazy? This game is in the 20s?
Yeah.
Don't let me talk you into it. What do you think?
No. I think it's going to be 21-17 Nebraska. That's what I'm hoping.
So does Nebraska have to win? The lower scoring the game is, the better off you think Nebraska is, because the total's right around 58.
Seems high.
That seems kind of high.
Yeah, I think so, man. Like I said, if we can, the ball control is going to be the biggest thing. If we can control the ball by running the ball and limiting Sims' passes, we should be in the red at the end of the game.
My man.
That's our guy, Husker Hall of Famer Troy Dumas.
It's got a nice ring to it.
We appreciate you. Congrats again on making the Hall of Fame.
Appreciate it, big fella.
All right. Appreciate you guys. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Love you, man.
All right. Coming up next, it's time for that Zipline Sports 6-pack right here on Benning and Lulla.
The show will be back in 5 minutes. The show will be back in 4 minutes. show will be back in 3 minutes. The show will be back in 2 minutes. The show will be back in 1 minute. The show will be back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents The Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla. Time now for the Sports Six-Pack, presented by Zipline Brewing Company, makers of Dear Old Nebraska Brew, the official beer of Nebraska alumni.
It's time for the Zipline Sports Six-Pack. Make sure you check out their multiple locations. They've got downtown Omaha across from TD Ameritrade Park, Charles Schwab Park now. My bad. Get out across the street from the Chuck. They've got their beer lounge out at 3808 South 203rd Plaza. They've got their beer hall in South Lincoln and their brewery tap room right next to their right next to their brewing location as well. Make sure you get on out there to try out that dear old Nebraska brew. Shane, let's get it cracking.
Can we do a remote from there sometime, like me asking the questions from there?
Oh, gosh.
And I actually have the fresh beers.
You wouldn't be able to call out anymore. You could barely hit Troy up.
I mean, how awesome would that be?
This
me on
looks
remote.
like a 3.
We might need an extra producer.
I think it'd be awesome. All right. So which do you think is more likely to happen at some point in the future? Nebraska wins another national championship in football, or Creighton wins a national championship in men's basketball?
If you're placing a long-term futures bet on one of those two things happening,
I'd take Creighton.
Creighton and men's basketball?
Yeah, much closer.
They're closer right now, but something they've never done before.
Yeah.
Right? Nebraska further away now, but they've got it in their history.
Right. I'd probably take Creighton.
Yeah.
Although degree of difficulty,
yeah,
might be tougher in basketball.
Ooh, you think so?
Maybe. Maybe.
I don't know.
I have to. Not that it's going to 12, no, but like if it stayed in its 4 format,
sure.
And I know you're like, well, wait, the more that have a chance to go to the party, but you just don't see like football over time. The cream always rises.
Yeah.
Basketball,
you get fluky. You can get a little fluky.
Yeah.
I just because it's easy. I think it's easier to upgrade talent in basketball than football, just because of numbers, right? Yeah. So let's say there's a talent gap between Georgia and Nebraska, which there is. It's easier for Creighton to bridge the talent gap between themselves and, say, UConn, who won the national championship last year, than it is for Nebraska to close the gap on Georgia.
Right.
Just because of pure numbers.
I understand.
So I probably go Creighton as well. And I know, big surprise, Creighton guy, Homer, whatever. But it's because of that reason. I think the degree of difficulty in upgrading the roster is easier.
Question number 2.
Would you rather Nebraska be good now, let's say 8-4 in the division championship, with no guarantee of the future, or be good for the next 10 years with an average of 8 wins, but no guarantee of anything more than that?
Okay, one more time.
The whole thing?
So I'll sum up here, okay? So would you rather, you could lock in right now, Nebraska goes 8-4 this year and wins the West, or Nebraska will average 8 wins for a period of 10 years starting this year. Have no idea what it looks like outside of that. Don't know if you win any divisions, conferences, or anything else, but you will be at least an 8-win average team for a decade.
I'll take this year.
You'll take this year?
I'll take this year.
Because you think if they're good now, they're going to be good in the future.
I'll
with
roll
Rhule?
the dice. I don't ever want to be capped.
Well, sure. But with the 8-win average, you could go 12 wins one year, 6 wins one year. Right? So you're not necessarily capping it. But do you think if they go 8-4 this year, that means they're really good in the future?
Yeah. If they were to go 8-4 this year, they'll be flat out dangerous.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah. I'll take the 8-4 to ride the momentum.
Because you think that means great things to come.
Yeah.
The reason I asked is because
that's tough.
It feels like we've kind of got these two different approaches between Rhule and Sanders right now, right?
Distinct.
Sanders trying to be good right now, Rhule trying to be good for a long time.
And we'll see if we have the patience to be built for the long haul. So we're going to need some success.
Yeah. You have to give them a little catnip to keep them engaged.
100%.
I think I go for the decade. I want a decade of being at least good.
I mean, I could see it. Playing it safe.
It's been a decade of not being good for
seems like it would make more sense to do that.
No, I get where your head's at, though. If you really believe in Rhule and you think, hey, they go 8-4 this year, that means that's the floor.
Yeah,
I get it.
I do.
That's fair.
I do.
Totally fair. What's next, Shane?
Question number 3.
A lot of people feel some kind of way about prime time. Who is your least likable Power 5 head coach?
Ooh, least likable.
Yep.
Just you personally. Might be a good guy, just rubs you the wrong way.
Well, he's in the discussion, Sweeney.
That's my answer. My answer is Dabo.
But isn't that weird of all our choices?
I just want to punch that guy in the face.
Nah, I'm not that bad. Because you know who else drives me bonkers?
PJ Fleck?
Chip Kelly. See, PJ Fleck doesn't bother me.
He doesn't bother me as much as he bothers some people, but I could see how he gets under people's skin.
Just talking to him a couple times.
Yeah. He seems like an okay guy.
He does. PJ Fleck doesn't bother me.
Yeah. Why do you dislike Chip Kelly? Just condescending or what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
A little bit of Billy C in him. Like I'm too smart for you.
Yeah. He irks me a little bit. But he's close.
Dabo's my guy.
How about the Brian Ferentz blast?
Yeah.
In his post, he's like, "Well, you're getting compared to Brian." I'm like, you never hear a coach talk about
other coaches like
another
that.
Coach like that. Like that. That's probably not going to age well.
No, Dabo rubs me the wrong in in almost
everything. It just seemed out of
character
for him.
Yeah, I think he's feeling it a little bit.
He said, "What did he say? When you're getting compared to a Brian Ferentz offense, that's bad."
Yeah, I think so. I think that I don't know if that's word for word, but that was the gist.
Yeah,
well, and then you hear him. He says yesterday, he goes, "If we play like this on offense all year, we're not going to lose another game." I said, "You can have 3 turnovers inside the 10 all year. You're going to lose every single game." Every single game.
Something about him. I don't know.
He rubs me the wrong way.
Question number 4.
Besides killer whales and serial killers, what's a random interest you have that would surprise people?
That one's specifically written to you.
Besides serial killers and killer whales, what's a surprising?
A random interest that people would find surprising.
So food doesn't count?
No, I think that makes sense.
Okay, I got one.
Yeah, what's
it's
that?
extremely weird.
What's that?
I'm fascinated by hygiene.
What do you mean by fascinated? Like,
I
know you're very
to the good and to the bad.
I know you're very like clean and you shower all the time, but like, what do you mean by fascinated?
I'm kind of obsessed with it. Like
with other people's hygiene?
Like some things like blow my mind, and they're grown-ups, like they can do what they want, but I'm just like, how
do you not shower more?
Or how do you not know fill in the blank? Or has nobody ever told you fill in the blank?
Like people that smell.
Yeah, it's lots of weird things. Like, and I'm too old to be worrying about other people
how other people smell.
But even like little things, like I try an unusual amount of soaps.
Okay.
So this just the other day.
You're a little bit of a soap connoisseur.
Just the other day.
Yeah.
And I can't believe this. I was walking with Ben McLaughlin. Who was I with? It might have been Andy Kendi. I was with somebody in Minnesota. And we walked by a Walgreens. And I was like, shoot, I wish I would have known that was here.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're like, why? And I go, I've never been more disappointed in trying a new toothpaste than I was 3-in-1 Scope.
Okay.
It's a weird thing to get under my skin.
Sure.
But it was so bad.
Yeah.
I was utterly disappointed.
Just like flavor-wise or the way it feels on your mouth?
First of all, it was white. It was a paste. So I knew it was going to be a crapshoot.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that going in because I didn't really read. I just saw a Scope, and I'm a big Scope guy.
Yeah.
It was so bad. I wanted to throw it out the window. I'm like.
It didn't have that many.
But that shouldn't move my needle like that, right? Like that's
probably
just
not.
weird. Just like move on, right?
It's just toothpaste.
Yeah, just move on.
Just move on. Get a new tube next time.
It was worthy enough to talk about later on in the day. But I should know better. I was mad at myself because 2-in-1s and 3-in-1s
never good.
They don't work.
They're never good. So you're not like a 2-in-1 shampoo conditioner guy. Yeah, you can't do that. Once you're out of college, you can't do that.
No disrespect, because I know Scope will hit me up wanting to do an endorsement, but that was bad. The 3-in-1 Scope.
You got to do better. You want DB to endorse you. You got to do better.
Yeah, it's kind of so those weird things. Like I don't know what my problem is. Like I smell laundry. Like I'm just weird.
That's fair.
I'm weird.
I mean, apparently for you, my surprise interest was Star Wars. You were like taken aback.
Yeah, that struck me as odd. And you were quick to defend it. I was like, I didn't see that coming.
No, I like it. I'm not a collector.
Who's your favorite character?
Ooh, I'm a big Obi-Wan guy.
Oh, the wise one?
Yeah, Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's my
old
dude.
or new?
You should have let Anakin die.
All of them. No, you should have killed him.
And the cartoon?
Yeah, cartoon is really good. The Clone Wars Obi-Wan is the elite, as Coach Rhule would say. Coming up next, we got more guests. We got Brian Edwards coming up
see
next.
We can win some folks some money.
Let's get some money
One
here.
of his plays is not going to make people happy.
On Benning and Lulla.
We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes.
Takes the snap. Takes the snap. Takes the snap. Looks left. Now comes back right. Sets up the screen. Got the swift. Gets it on. Took it deep. Touchdown to Troy Dumas. Dragons out here. 21 yards. Counts it. 11 seconds left. And Kansas City leads 38-35 with 8 seconds to go in regulation in Super Bowl 57.
We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla. Now, Vegas insider, senior handicapper, and fan of the cold Budweiser bottles, Brian Edwards.
It's got to be touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Brian Edwards.
I don't really love it.
Brian Edwards.
Were they using the cream cheese to butter the bagel?
Brian Edwards.
I'm going with the cowgirl.
Here is Brian Edwards.
Joining us on the Warhorse Sportsbook hotline, it's appropriate. It is our guy, B. Edwards, because if you want to place a bet in Nebraska to cash in on Brian's advice, you're going to have to go down to the Warhorse Sportsbook in Lincoln, the only place in the state where you can place a bet. Brian, how are you today?
Doing good, gentlemen. What's happening, fellas?
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be friends after this. I mean, we our relationship has withstood the test of time, man. But today, I don't know, man. If you smell what the Rock is cooking,
it's got to be touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
First of all, are you ready for this NFL season? And who wins the NFC South?
Ooh, good question. I'm ready for the NFL season, yes. I will say I'll go Panthers.
See, I did too.
Yeah,
I thought you may say New Orleans, but I don't know, man. I think
Bryce Young's gonna be. I think he's gonna be great.
I think he's gonna be pretty good too. I really do.
Yeah, great's a stretch as a rookie, but just he's gonna be really good. I think.
Who's the bottom feeder this year? Is it the Texans? Arizona
and the Cardinals the Cardinals. So I've got 4 entries in my eliminator or survivor, and I did 2 on the Commanders this week. I think I'm gonna be going against Arizona a lot on my eliminator.
Hey, whoever they're playing.
Yeah, whoever Arizona's playing, who I'm gonna have. I mean, they're either going with Clayton Tune, the 5th round pick out of Houston, or Josh Dobbs, who they traded for 13 days ago. And I mean, they traded Isaiah Simmons. They released Hopkins. They're starting corner is out for the year. Yeah,
you cut McCoy, like the only quarterback.
This is the most blatant tanking I've seen since like Flores' first year with the Dolphins. I think that's fair, right? Isn't that fair?
Oh, you are tough this morning.
I thought you were going to cross sports on me and say since the 76ers.
Let's start in the NFL. Let's take your Commanders. Just 7 seems ridiculous, but it's awful low. What do you like?
I think it moved to 6. I'm pulling up my odds here. I think it moved to 6. Yeah, it was 7 yesterday when I sent the DM to you guys. Let's see, where are they on the board here? Oh gosh, I'm not seeing it for some reason. Anyhow, whether it's 6 or 7, I like Washington. Again, everything I just said about Arizona, I'm fading Arizona. Logan Thomas has been upgraded to probable, a stud tight end for Washington, and I think McLaurin's going to play. But look, even if not, I still like Washington. Again, we're just fading Arizona. They're in full-on tank mode. And look, I think Sam Howell's going to be pretty good. He played really good against Dallas that regular season finale. I haven't really watched much of it preseason, but everything I've read, I think Sam Howell's going to be good. But again, we're just fading Arizona here.
Little surprised Arizona didn't try and sign Logan Thomas as their starting quarterback. Wow. That's a Virginia Tech deep cut there for you. Another game that you're liking in the NFL. You've got a little bit of an in-state rivalry with Bengals at Browns. You like the Bengals in this one. I take it you're not bought in on the Deshaun Watson comeback yet.
Well, I think he's going to be a lot better. Obviously he was super duper rusty last year, but it's more just I think the Bengals are the best. I think they're going to be the best team in the NFL. I didn't see if he practiced yesterday, but I know Denzel Ward's been in concussion protocol, star, corner for the Browns, best cover corner they have. That is not good when you're going against those stud wide receivers. If you got your best cover corner, I shouldn't say he's not going to play. He's been questionable all week, but anywho, I like the Bengals to win the AFC North. Plus 130 to plus 150. I like their win total over 11.5. I think they're going to win the Super Bowl, and I like a minus 2.5 in week 1.
So, wow, you and Ravi are on the Bengals Super Bowl train.
Yeah, no lingering concerns about that calf with Joe Burrow?
I mean, I think he's good to go. A little bit maybe, but nah. I mean, I've already played it, so I think he's good. I saw him sprinting 2 days ago. He was sprinting. He looked fine. I think he's taking his time to get back. I think it'll be good.
Sneaky play here. You like a team total, and it's with points scored in the first half, and it's the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, I rode this bet like most of last season, and it was pretty much automatic. It pushed that Thursday night game against the Texans, and but it was 14 then, and it lost with the Saints when Jalen was out. But it pretty much only had like 3 or 4 L's last year. I pretty much bet it every week starting in like week 4 or 5. So yeah, over either 12.5 or 13, but I would like it all the way to 14, where I think push would be worst case scenario. A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith. Jalen's got weapons. Jalen is that guy you don't have to worry about getting a fat contract and losing passion or work ethic, etc. Look, I respect Belichick and the Patriots defense, but until this bet starts losing, I'm pretty much going to be on it every week as long as it's 14 or fewer. Eagles first half team total over.
All right, B, I'm afraid the audience might turn on you here because your college bets this week are Colorado heavy. What? I mean, if I'm counting right, I think I've got 4 here that you've got on this Colorado-Nebraska game. Why don't you lay those out for us?
Yeah, well, my favorite is Colorado's team total to go over 30.5 or 31. I'm not sold on Colorado's defense at all, but I am sold on this offense. Shedeur Sanders looks like a first-round pick. Travis Hunter looks like a top 3 pick, although he's got to stay in school another year. And yeah, I mean, Sean Lewis's offense, they looked like the best coach team in all of college football last week. So I'm doing their team total over the 30.5 or 31. I'm doing their team total in the first half over 14.5. I also like Colorado -3. Now, I got over 57 earlier in the week, but it's like 59 or 59.5 now, and I've got enough built in. So I'm kind of not endorsing that over anymore. I think Colorado team total over 30.5 or 31 is my favorite, but I will throw this out for you guys. Nebraska is 8-0-1 against the spread. Their last 9 as a road underdog, but I'm obviously going against that trend.
Yeah, that's got 31-28 written all over it for you then, right?
32, I hope.
Let's go to Bama. This one's going to have a ton of eyeballs. Maybe only Nebraska, Colorado is rivaled by this Bama game in terms of viewership, because it will garner some interest with national brands. What do you like here?
I'm trying to find it on the board, make sure it hadn't moved to 7.5. As long as it's 7, I like Bama. Jalen Milroe, he showed me a little something last week. I know it was Middle Tennessee, but we've never really seen him throw the ball down the field, certainly not doing it effectively. Now, we really only saw him in the A&M and Arkansas game, but we knew he was a stud runner, good leader, teammate, all that. But he showed that he's vastly improved throwing the football last week. 3 touchdowns, no interception, threw 2 perfect deep balls. Alabama is 15-5-1 against the spread. Its last 21 as a home favorite. During Sarkisian's tenure, Texas has lost 6 of 9 road games outright. 5 of those 6 losses by 7 or more. They've been a road underdog under Sark 3 times, 0-3 against the spread. I like Bama.
All right, I'm going to make you get to this one because you were fading FSU last week against LSU. Obviously, they came out on top there. Now you've got one on FSU that you like. What's that one?
Yeah, man, Keon Coleman, what a difference maker. I mean, I've got to drive Mel Tucker crazy. FSU's offense looks really, really good. Johnny Wilson over 100 yards receiving last week. Jordan Travis 4 touchdown passes. So, look, I mean, it's a short week off the Sunday night game. I could see FSU being flat, so I'm not really interested in laying any points. But their team total to get over 41.5. Look, even if they come out flat, I still think they get to 45. And if they come out and are executing and looking good, they get into the 50s, I think. So, like, Washington, Colorado, and FSU looked like the best offenses to me last week. So their team total's over, or something I'm going to be looking at every week until I see a defense slow them down, which, I mean, we're only 1 game deep, so that could happen. But right now, those offenses look great.
This looks like an image game again, right? You probably weren't overly impressed with Minnesota. They're laying a big number, 20.5, to a visiting Eastern Michigan bunch. Eastern Michigan they're tricky. This is a big number, and you may be onto something here.
Yeah, I call Chris Creighton the underdog king. 25-4 against the spread, last 29 as a road underdog for the Eastern Michigan Eagles. They won outright at Arizona State last year. They won outright at Purdue a couple of years ago. They won outright at Illinois in 2019. They do not get intimidated going into Power 5 venues. And Kaliak Manis, the quarterback for Minnesota, he's made 6 starts now. They have scored 17, 20, 31, 10, 23, and 13 in those 6 starts. He's got more interceptions than touchdowns for his career. I mean, they're laying 21, and they've only scored more than 21 in 2 of his 6 starts. I like Eastern Michigan plus the 21.
All right, last one here before you get you out of here, B. Maybe the most fun game of the weekend, Ole Miss and Tulane. You got anything you're playing there?
Yeah, I played over 62.5, but it's all the way to 67 now, so that's hard to endorse. A small play on Ole Miss if you can get -7, but by the half point from 7.5 if that's your number.
Probably the most obscure game you and I have been talking about for the longest is this Tulane Ole Miss game. This is going to be a big one in both teams' win totals.
Yeah, man, Michael Pratt and Willie Fritz.
He's the real deal.
They'll be ready to go, but I think over 60 minutes, I think Ole Miss pulls away late, wins by 10.
All right, B, we appreciate you. We'll talk to you next week.
Gentlemen, y'all have a great weekend.
Michael Bruns coming up next.
The show will be back in 4 minutes. The show will be back in 3 minutes. The show will be back in 2 minutes. The show will be back in 1 minute. The show will be back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
Yeah, I mean, too many times people isolate the individual. I think it's, layers of coaching and training that we have to continue to do each day. I mean, each position group has to do their job to make sure, the receivers run the routes at the right depths, the offensive line protects them, the backs protects them. So I think collectively we're all in it together to make sure that everybody on our offense maximizes their ability and their talents. And we got to do that with Jeff as well.
Welcome back to the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla, starting hour number 3 with our friend Michael Bruns from Husker 24/7. Bruntz, how are you today?
Not bad. What's going on?
Bruntz, it seems like the theme for the week was ownership, right? I mean, started with the staff taking ownership. We just heard Coach Satt. He said, listen, collectively, we've got to get better coaching it up, and everybody's got to do their jobs. Is that kind of the reoccurring theme that you keep hearing?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think, especially offensively, I mean, there was plenty of, I don't know if you want to say blame, but, everybody probably could have taken their turn during the film review session if they had the time. So, yeah, I think, what I'm eager to see out of this game this week is, you have a small sample size of what this offense kind of is. You're kind of wanting to see, how good of a coaching job the staff can do, and if they can kind of make that next step going into week 2, knowing what your deficiencies are, when the lights are on, and maybe some of the decisions that not only your players made, but also I think some of the rotational type questions too.
Bruntz, from what we heard from Coach Rhule to start the week, and then from Coach Satterfield yesterday, it sounds like the Jeff Sims they saw in practice was pretty different than the one they saw against Minnesota. How long do you think they can deal with that disconnect before either changing the game plan for Jeff Sims or maybe exploring other options?
No, I think the game plan's got to look different this week. And I don't know that that's necessary. Part of that is, I think, is maybe what you saw against Minnesota. But I think you just got to give him some easier decisions. And, you'd like to see a little bit more reliance on the running game with the backs. I think that would help a lot. I think you'll probably see a little bit more with Jeff Sims and his feet. But, yeah, I mean, I think, kind of the disconnect between what you saw on last Thursday and all of fall camp, I mean, it's a little bit of a cause for concern, because even if you didn't see it during fall camp, you've seen it at times. Mm-hmm. Like it wasn't like it just came out of nowhere with him. Mm-hmm. You're hoping that whatever he went through at Georgia Tech, you'd either coached out or gotten out of the system, so to speak. But I mean that to me is a little bit more of the bigger concern. Is are we reverting here with Sims to kind of what he did before, or are there ways that you can help him out with some of the play calling?
Brent, you mentioned maybe changing the game plan up a little bit, and it seems like everybody's talking about Jeff Sims running it less, but I look at Minnesota and I say, hey, that's the one thing that I know worked. Am I crazy to want Jeff Sims to run the ball more?
Well, I mean, I think it's about the same numbers. Fine. I think it's just a matter of kind of how you get to those carries, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're needing him to go and get you, 3-4 yards or something like that, I don't like that as much. But if you're creating space for him and letting him use his athletic ability, I'm okay with that. I mean, I think that's how you can control the ball. I mean, if that's going to be the way that you're going to have to pick up 3rd and 6, that's how you pick up 3rd and 6. It's just, I don't know you need him, plunging into the line and get you 3 or 4 when those types of carries could very easily and should have probably gone to Gabe Ervin. So that's kind of where I stand on it. But I mean, I don't know. There's a limit at some point to how much he's going to be able to carry the ball, and you're going to have to be able to also make plays through the air, or at least give Colorado the thought that you can do it to kind of loosen things up for the running game.
Ravi has a thought on that. He asked me a question off air. Fire that by Bruntz, because that seems to be.
So I guess why is there a limit on how much he can run the ball? Like if Eric Crouch can take 30 hits a game at maybe 6 foot tall and 200 pounds, I'm being generous there, EC, if you're listening, but Jeff Sims at 6'4", 220 can't take 20 hits a game. Like I don't. That's part of my disconnect here. Is like I don't understand why there's a limit on the number of times he can run the ball.
That's fair. I think. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a little bit of a different situation too with what's behind him. I mean, I think you need to be a little bit more cognizant of that. I mean, with Crouch, I mean, you kind of that was the offense that you were running, and I think Nebraska has more playmakers in this offense that they need to get the ball to. I mean, when you go down the list where you had no targets to Thomas Fedoni, you had 2 targets to Billy Kemp. You basically had people asking if Gabe Ervin was hurt going into the second half because he wasn't being used very much. You didn't really see a ton of creativity with Ramir Johnson and maybe what he could be. So I feel like there's options that probably can be explored before we're just going to go full junction boys and run Jeff Sims 30 times a game. Like there's probably a balancing act there somewhere that I think Nebraska needs to find this week with the game plan.
Bruntz with no love for Troy Hasselbrook and my man, Mr. Davis, and
with all apologies to Judd Davies, who was
Judd
also
Davies. I mean, are you did you really just go there?
I did. I went there.
It's so subtle too. I love it. Bruntz, you're the deal. Go ahead.
Did you know? Where was Gabe Ervin in that game? I want to see more Gabe Ervin.
Listen, so I understand. But what if it was like?
But you're talking to an Anthony Grant guy.
No, and Bruntz, and I know you guys will give it to me. You guys will cuss me out whenever you get ready. But what if I just simply said they went with the guy they thought gave them the best chance to move the football? Would you take that for an answer? Or are you going to be like, man, those guys are crazy? Because I don't know what else to tell you.
I guess no, that's fair. And that's that's the coaching decision. I still have not lined up the disconnect with what we heard all of fall camp with what we saw on Thursday. That's all.
So okay, Bruntz, let me. So Ravi and I had no bias, all bias aside. I felt like yesterday's podcast was really, really good because Ding Dong over here next to me kept asking me hard stuff, and so we just kept peeling back the layers. It started out real subtle, like how the difficulties of three-peating, and somehow we got into trusting running backs carrying the football. And I lived through the Amon Greens, the D'Angelo Evans, the Correll Buckhalters, the Dan Alexanders, the guys that we kind of loved through some early ball security problems. Why are we so reluctant, if we're playing the long game, to give up on Grant? We've seen it work before.
I'm not giving up on Grant, though, Damon. I just want to see a guy
that talks to me. You jerk.
Nobody ever said I'm giving up on Anthony Grant.
I'm not giving up on him, Damon. You
You
made me feel so bad right there. I'm sorry, Bruntz.
You can roll the tape back. I never said I was giving up on Anthony Grant. I never even mentioned Anthony Grant. I'm not even talking about the fumble. Here's what I know. I saw a Minnesota defender come up and stick Gabe Ervin in the backfield, and I saw him rumble 30 yards down the field after that.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the way forward for Nebraska in this game. I just want to see a little bit more of that, is all I'm saying. And it's not even just the rotation there. I would like to see a little bit more of a little bit more variety in the offense. That's all. That's all I'm saying. I'm not quitting on Anthony Grant. I'm not trashing on guys that were on the 2001 team that are very talented players.
You heard it here first. Michael Bruns hates Mike Davies.
Michael Bruns for not liking anything other than Gabe Ervin in this segment. Okay.
I just want to see a little more. That's all. Just a little.
Bruns, you're a Millard North guy. I thought you were allergic to variety on offense.
I was a big Alex Shada guy. I want to see him throw him to the ball. I want to see him Crouch throw him the ball, man. I'm sorry, Brunsy.
I don't know. I mean, that's just all I'd like to see.
Okay.
And I think
more Wilson Thomas. Come on.
Big target. Yeah. Big target.
Give me a little Tracy Wistrom. But to your original question, I do think that's kind of the ownership piece of it on the offense. Is I didn't feel like they got enough guys involved.
So when and I know this has had time to sink in. Real time. Were you less impressed with TCU or more impressed with Colorado?
Man, that's what I was going to ask. Steal my questions over here.
Sorry, man.
That's a good radio guy question. You got me pinned in here.
Well, you're on a roll today, aren't you?
Yeah. No, I was more impressed in the moment by Colorado, and I think part of that is because you had no idea what that was going to look like, and I mean, you're kind of looking at it like, okay, this seems like they got something here. They got some athletes, and I think maybe that should have been so surprising. But you see it in real time, and you're kind of like, oh, okay, I get it now. I see what's going on here. And that offense, I don't think that offense was really what they were running at previous stops either. I mean, there were some wrinkles in there that Lewis hadn't run at his previous stops. So that surprised me. But when I kind of went back to it, I was a little TCU just didn't show up to the fight. I mean, they signed up for a 7-on-7 game. That's what they got. And it didn't really feel like once the game got going that there was a ton of adjustments made there. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, you're 100. If you listen to go back and listen to Dumas' segment, he was floored at how TCU defended
or didn't defend
Colorado. Like absolutely
Yeah.
floored.
Like it just felt like, we're going to drop back and hope that, they make mistakes or they tire themselves out. Like I didn't really get what the game plan was. There was a lot of 3-man front. It just didn't really do, much of anything to force the issue. So that's when you don't have the element of surprise and you're kind of trying to figure out what your opponent's doing in week one, I feel like that's a pretty good way to get beat,
Bruntz, I'm curious, while you're watching that Colorado TCU game, were you cognizant in real time of how badly TCU was gashing them with the run? Or because I didn't really realize it was 8 yards a carry until I looked at the stats later. Like I knew when they decided to run, it was going well, but I didn't realize it was going like that.
No, like I said, I mean, that was a game where you kind of did need to go back and really fine-tooth comb it a little bit on the numbers because it was.
I mean Chandler Morris was getting 6 a carry.
Yeah, I know.
Who's no Jeff Sims as a runner, by the way.
Yeah, so that should have probably perked up some ears over in North Stadium a little bit. I mean, I think the type of game that those two teams played are not what Nebraska wants to be doing on Saturday. I'll tell you that much.
Bruntz, when you're kind of summing this whole thing up, is Boulder looms right around the corner. You don't want to get caught up in the moment, but in your opinion, just how big is this one for Nebraska?
It's a big one. I mean, and it's not just because of all the circus and everything that's going to be going on around the game, and it is going to be a big circus. There's no question about that. But I don't know. You came out in week one and you played well enough to win. I mean, the numbers favored you late in the fourth quarter, and I think from just a kind of belief standpoint, with this team, I mean, it's a big one to go on the road and get. I mean, I get the sense that this rivalry as time goes on is much bigger for the fans than it is for the players. I mean, a lot of these guys were, 7 years old whenever, Ndamukong Suh was stomping on Colorado. So, I just think it's from just kind of a getting things going in the right direction point of view for Matt Rhule and the staff. It's a really big one, and you stay on schedule. I mean, from kind of what I think a lot of people thought the season was going to look like in September and kind of the start to the season, you're kind of holding serve if you go out and beat Colorado. And I don't know. I mean, it would be a little bit of a statement win. I mean, for as much nationally as people are talking about Colorado now and all the Heismans that they're giving the Colorado players and all that other stuff. I mean, it would be a big win nationally for Nebraska to kind of, take the wind out of the sails there.
Did I detect a note of sarcasm?
A tad. They hand those out in week one, or week one. I mean, they only give one though, so they don't have to split it.
Let's for a little true serum here. For both coaches who are doing this differently in terms of belief and culture, and it's all about family, which one caters more to your personality, Deion's or Rhule's?
Well, I mean, when you think of me, you think of Flash.
Yeah, I think of primetime Bruntz.
But you also don't strike me as a slow burn kind of guy either.
I can knock a couple singles through the hole between first and second. I'm okay with that. Just getting on base.
There's a little simmer to Bruntz's game.
Yeah, I'm okay with letting it build. I mean, I as much as people talk about the program building and stuff like that. I mean, for Matt Rhule, it's got to be a little bit quicker than what it's been for him in the past. But I mean, I think there's more that you can do with that. I just when you play the portal game like Colorado's doing, sure you're going to be able to find athletes, but I question how sustainable it is. And I understand that there's all these think pieces this week about how that's where college football is going, and it might be to a degree, but I still think if you can build things, and especially in a place like Nebraska, it lines up a little bit more kind of how you have to do things with what Matt Rhule's doing.
Bruntz, you mentioned it. Matt Rhule is going to have to do things a little bit quicker than he did in previous stops. Were you surprised at all about the fan reaction to that Minnesota loss? Because it seemed a lot more toxic than I was expecting.
Well, the honeymoon ended about after the second or third down pickup in that first quarter. I feel like that was that was where things stopped.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, a little surprised, but not really. I mean, I get this is a fan base that's been through this for 20 years, and they want to see some tangible progress.
But no one expected him to win that game.
I'm aware. I'm aware.
See, he does it to me too, DB.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think,
Man.
I think that's, yeah, I that's a very good point you just brought up there, Ravi. It's a very good point.
Okay, of what we saw in week 1, since we're busy overreacting, which one do you think manifests itself the quickest? Nebraska having quality special teams, Colorado not being able to run the ball, or Colorado not being able to stop the run?
I think, I don't know, I like what Nebraska did on special teams. I mean, that was one of the biggest plays of that game was that Ramir Johnson return. I went back and looked over the last 3 years the number of times that Nebraska's won the starting field position battle with an opponent, and that was number, I believe, 4 or 5 against a Power 5 opponent. Like, it doesn't happen very often.
Wow, that is crazy.
And you know what the best advantage they had since 2021 was? A little trivia here that I was surprised by.
Talk to me.
Oklahoma, the game on the road down there where they tried to shorten things. They had a 5.
And weird, they found themselves in the game.
Yeah, they had a 5-yard advantage in starting field position in that game. And so I don't know. I mean, I think I liked that the special teams played with attitude. I thought Buschini was good. Alvano didn't look shaky in his one timeout there. I mean, I think that can be a net positive sooner than about anything for Nebraska right now.
Bruntz, if you're looking at keys to the game for Nebraska, what's kind of the thing you're hanging your hat on? It's saying, hey, if Nebraska is able to do this, I really like their chances here. Is it as simple as just not turning the ball over 4 times?
That's a good start. I think the tempo. Who wins the tempo battle? I mean, that's going to be a big thing. I mean, Colorado's going to want to play fast. They're going to want to run a lot of plays. Nebraska's probably not going to want to do that. They're going to want to grind clock and run the ball.
At some point, isn't Colorado going to have to play some complimentary football, though?
You'd think. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
that offense can't exist in a vacuum. I'm
eager to see if it can. I think they want to try. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a big question mark. But whoever wins that kind of tug of war with the tempo, I think, is going to have a pretty good day. You know, the thing that I'm going to be watching for Nebraska, and this kind of goes back to how TCU chose to defend or not defend Colorado, is whether or not Nebraska's front can win one-on-one and get pressure without having to scheme things up. Because I feel like if you're able to at least force the issue without having to commit 5-6 guys to creating pressure, I think that's a pretty strong recipe for Nebraska to have a good day too. Because like I said, TCU won that, and I think that's one area where Nebraska can maybe have an advantage, that they can kind of take away the quick game and be a little disruptive up front.
It's interesting too, because Sanders doesn't scramble to run; he scrambles to make plays downfield.
He does, which is a little bit of a concern kind of last week, where Minnesota's quarterback was able to do some things back there as well. But yeah, I mean, I think if you can make them uncomfortable and get them off schedule and not let them do the quick stuff, I think that would be a win for Nebraska.
That's our friend Michael Bruns from Husker 24/7. You got
very, very sorry. You did not quite run Schaefer down, but you guys are definitely 1 and 1A for.
Yeah, is there something in the water over there at Husker 24/7?
The week, I mean,
yeah.
goodness. Schaefer was on a roll.
Was he?
Oh yeah, I would say rare form, but man, that's about 5 or 6 now.
Pretty common.
He was having none of the nonsense.
Got it. Yeah, that's how it happens. It's constant back and forth and fire over at the office.
Yeah, and then BC's the only normal nice one.
He's in the car with me right now. I'll tell him you said that.
Hey, he's the only guy that wouldn't hurt a fly. And you guys are busy just squishing bugs, man, one after another.
Well, Bruntz, safe travels out to Colorado. I hope nobody throws their urine at you, and best of luck.
Wow.
Yeah, fingers crossed on that. No batteries in the snowball this time of year though. So there's that.
That's true. Look at you, always looking at the bright side.
Looking up. If you're looking for a good quality chain, go hit the Big Biscuit for breakfast. Don't let Schaefer or anybody else take you to like Korean barbecue for breakfast.
Are we even going to have time for breakfast on Saturday?
No.
I feel like we have to be at the stadium at like 6.
Yeah, and
I'm headed there now.
Listen, I'm telling you right now, it is a miserable place to get into and out of. So
yeah, I know.
Tread lightly.
Well, have fun.
All right, buddy.
Thanks.
That's Michael Bruns from Husker 24/7.
Something in the water over there.
I think there must be. I want to tell you about our friends over at Pratt Dental in North Platte, Nebraska. Dr. Pratt is the only dentist in Nebraska that provides the BioClear method. He provides that as an alternative to more invasive procedures. Check out Pratt Dental for more information. Spend less time and less waiting at the dentist, Pratt Dental. Coming up next, we've got our friend Jacob Padilla to talk about the big volleyball match last night, Creighton and Nebraska, right here on Benning and Lulla.
We'll be right back in 5 minutes. We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
Hey, I want to tell you about our friends over at Rockbrook Camera. Go visit them, www.rockbrookcamera.com, or you can find them at 168th and Center in Omaha, 70th and Pioneer in Lincoln. They also have free shipping on cameras and lenses on purchases over $199. Rockbrook Camera, not just trying to sell you a camera, trying to help you become the best photographer you can be, whatever that means for your goals and what you're trying to do. They've got support after the sale. You can trade in your old equipment, or you can go and visit their extensive rental department to kind of see what you like. rockbrookcamera.com. All right, on the line with us now is our friend Jacob Padilla. Jacob, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. Good morning, gentlemen.
I feel like we talk a lot. Is this kind of weird?
No, we're friends.
I mean, between your guys' group text and the fact that I see you all the time, it's like we got to break up the monotony here.
Oh, I'm glad to join you.
So, Jacob, let's start off with the volleyball match last night. Kind of a weird match, right? Because Nebraska is just blowing the doors off of Creighton in the first two sets. Looks like they're going to cruise to another sweep. Then Creighton gets things together and grabs the first set of the year off of Nebraska before Nebraska obviously ends up winning in 4. I guess, how did you view those weird momentum shifts as they're happening in real time?
Well, the first one happened pre-match when they announced that Norris. So first, Creighton put out the Twitter graphic of starters, and I was reading through it, and I was like, "Wait a second, Nora's not on here." And I was sitting next to Matt DeMarinis, and like, "Do you know what's going on here? Because she doesn't leave the court; she starts every match. It's not like a weird rotation thing, right? Where like they've got somebody else playing for the first point. Like, no, she plays every rotation. So I didn't watch closely enough during warm-ups, but apparently she didn't warm up. I just saw that she was in uniform. So that kind of threw me for a loop. I reached out to someone who I thought would know, and ended up hearing back about what the issue was. Like, all right, that's incredibly disappointing. Would have liked to see both teams at full strength, and especially knowing kind of the side storylines there with Northis and Lindsey Krause and how close they are. And this would have been Nora's first chance to play in Devaney because they've been up at CHI the last 2 years. So that right away is like, and then to follow that up with, they can't even play volleyball right now in that first set. Nebraska didn't even have to do anything to win the set, basically. Because Creighton did it for them. 13 attack errors in the first set alone. So, it was like, this is going to be a wrap very quickly. In the second set, kind of same thing where Nebraska just ran away from it over the second half of the set. And credit to Creighton for kind of regrouping during the intermission and coming back out and finding a way to settle in. And I know Coach Booth talked about, hey, we like our game plan, we might have been too like dialed in on certain things and kind of restricted the players a little bit, and they adjust their lineups, they changed some things and came out, tried to free up the players a little bit to kind of be more themselves, and they're able to take a set off Nebraska. First time anybody's done that this year, but in the end they didn't. Without Nora, they just didn't have enough to really push Nebraska beyond that.
Jacob, I'm not going to kid you. I was having some flashbacks when Nebraska got up 2-0 last year and Creighton pushed that thing to 5. Coach Cook in the post game, he said, "Listen, you guys got to learn to play through this, right? You got a little loosey-goosey in that third set, tightening back up. Do you think that that's a deal that this team will have to contend with at some point, given the fact they're off to such a, I won't say easy start, but a very quick, efficient start?"
Yeah, and they should get some chances to kind of experience that and show whether they can do it or not here coming up with some of these matches. I think the non-conference played out well where they were able to kind of ease into the season. Obviously had the big Memorial Stadium match against an overmatched opponent, so you didn't necessarily have to worry about that beyond just kind of doing what you're supposed to do. They're able to enjoy the kind of environment in the moment more so than like, all right, we have to play our best volleyball to win this thing. And now you're starting to face the tougher opponents after getting kind of a few weeks of matches under your belt. Creighton was the start of that. Long Beach State is only 2-3, but they beat Texas to open the season. And then you got Stanford, Kentucky, and then you go right into the Big Ten with some of the best teams in the conference out of the gate. So they're certainly going to have to they're certainly going to get chances to show whether or not that they know how to kind of play through that stuff. Didn't get many chances. The Lipscomb match is really the only chance so far this season where they were really kind of in a hole and had to battle back, and they found a way to win that. And that was Lipscomb. It's a little different doing that against a top 25 team or a Big Ten team or something like that. So that's kind of the next question to answer, I think, as we're starting to see them improve, figure some things out offensively after the slow start to the season. They've been playing a little bit better. Some of the players have been coming on stronger. But yeah, we'll learn a lot about this team over the next couple of weeks.
33 and 34 attempts at it between Nadam Simpson and Ava Martin, respectively. Nadam Simpson, I'm a little biased. It just hits 242. When you take a look at Creighton being so good defensively from a historical standpoint versus how they want to play offense, how much do you think they're impacted last night by the lack of availability from Sis versus this kind of maybe a little bit of a work in progress for them offensively?
Yeah, that completely changed everything. Like Ava Martin doesn't normally have to pass, doesn't play all the way around, and she had to do that. And Booth even mentioned kind of how at the start of the match they basically slid Ava into Nora's spot and switched their outside hitters. And so basically Ava's playing in a completely unfamiliar situation. They ended up switching back later in the match, flipping them so just to try to get her more comfortable. But what Nadam Simpson showed, I think that was the biggest takeaway and probably the best positive from the match is she wasn't afraid. She stepped into that big role, and with everybody else struggling, there wasn't really anybody else drawing attention outside of Kendra herself. the setter. She stepped up, and as a freshman, first big-time environment, hadn't played a ton this year before last weekend, and stepped up to it. And, I mean, 242 against defense like Nebraska with very little help around her, 13 kills. That was a really impressive performance. And I know Cook praised her afterward. And I know she's no stranger to showing up down there at the Devaney in a big moment. But unfortunately, she hasn't won yet. But yeah, that's definitely something that Creighton's going to be able to build on. You just hope that it's not a long-term injury for Sis. You can get her back, hopefully before that Minnesota match, if nothing else. That's a big opportunity for Creighton, and obviously not expecting to see her this weekend for that tournament. So they've got to. It's hard to know. Like I wouldn't really take anything away from that match in terms of, all right, what can this be long term outside of maybe that the Dom Simpson, like, hey, they've got something with her.
You and I talk. I always try to bend your ear about volleyball, so you know that this was on my mind the last 3 weeks. She appears to have gotten it in gear. Just the one hitting error, 478 on the night. Krause appears to be settling in like we thought. She's been spectacular as of late.
Yeah, and that was kind of the biggest question. Like Cook said, all right, who's going to grab that second outside hitter spot? And that's something we've seen over the last few years where they struggled, like rotating different hitters, trying to find somebody to step up to the plate consistently. We saw Krause kind of on the opposite side, obviously, last year, but take off down the stretch. Had a slow start to the season, trying to figure some things out, back on the lab, new setter and everything. But started with Kansas State match, 9 kills, 286 hitting, 4 blocks as well, and then followed it up with an even better offensive performance. You mentioned 12 kills, 478. And some of the shots she was hitting in that, like, there were some absolute lasers there that Creighton just
the one where she almost fell backwards.
Yeah,
not a chance I'm ever getting in front of that ever.
Oh,
ever.
No.
I'd rather get in a batter's box.
Every time I watch but yeah, I think that was kind of the next big question for Nebraska. Is, all right, who's going to be that second outside hitter? And as of late, Lindsay's showing, hey, I'm here. I'm ready to be a big-time contributor for this team.
That's Hurrdat Sports' own Jacob Padilla. Jacob, we appreciate your time as always. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, JP.
All right, thanks for having me, guys.
Coming up next, we've got more of Benning and Lulla as we wrap up the show.
We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
Townsend will hold it. 11 seconds left in Super Bowl 57, 35-35 tie. The kick is good, and Kansas City leads 38-35 with 8 seconds to go in regulation in Super Bowl 57.
Wrapping up the show on a Thursday, I want to tell you about our friends at Dingman's Collision Center. They have been in business for over 25 years in Omaha, family-owned and family-run. They can work on anything that you've got for them, from Fords to Teslas, because they invest in the latest technology. Voted best of Omaha for 18 years running. Not only are they good at what they do, they try and do some good for the community as well with their give back program for every car repaired. Go check out dingmans.com/r-community to find out more. They are working with a bunch of different nonprofits, but especially Epic for Girls and the Collective for Hope as part of their give back program. That is our friends over at Dingman's.
Ding.
Ding. I know we did our NFL preview yesterday. We are trying to get a hold of our friend Nate Davis.
The phone system isn't allowing us to dial out.
Yeah, we're having some issues with the phone, which is it's all right. It's not really, but we're gonna.
Nah, I'm not happy about it.
So where are we with things, Shane?
I texted him, so we'll see what happens here.
Okay,
and I'll just keep trying to.
So we'll
Are you excited about tonight?
Are
you waiting for the showdown with your
our
heavily
teams?
Payroll Niners traveling to Hines to play my Stillers.
Are you saying Stellar Steelers or just Steelers?
Just the Stillers. That's kind of what they say in the area. The Steelers. It's like the who?
No, I don't know. I have a hard time getting up for the Thursday night game for the NFL.
But it's the Chiefs.
Even if it's the opener, I do like the Chiefs. I'm certainly going to watch. I got to get the dual TV set up so I can get Millard West and Burke on one TV and get the Chiefs and NFL kickoff on the other. But Sunday is what I'm really looking forward to. I'm looking forward to sitting down in that noon window with Scott Hansen going through my NFL Red Zone. That's what I'm excited for.
See, Sunday's a work day for me. So
for coaching,
So
it's all about tonight.
I got to work around it and use the library.
There you go.
We got our guy.
All right, we are now joined by Nate Davis. He is an NFL writer for USA Today. Nate, thanks for joining us.
How are you guys?
Oh, we're good. We're good. It's so what we know, what we think we know. Can Goff repeat a year 2 performance in which they were sensational on offense? And does Mahomes need Kelsey? Like it seems like the storylines are easy. Well, like what are you gravitating towards tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think most people, it seems like a game Kansas City probably ought to win, even with Kelsey and probably Chris Jones out, almost surely. They're always well prepared and come out flying in week 1, and I think they've got a bunch of, lesser known options beyond Travis Kelsey that they're expecting to make big jumps in year 2 with the team. Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. And those types. I'm sure Jerick McKinnon would have a big role tonight if Kelsey can't go. So it's just hard for me to see the Chiefs not being able to win this home opener at Arrowhead. But that being said, I think the Lions are going to be really good. They're my pick to win the NFC North. This will be Jared Goff's first game ever at Arrowhead, and he had some really stark home road splits last year of his passing, but he's got some new weapons there as well, and then their defense can only be better than it was last year. So looking forward to it. Should be a fun game.
Nate, you mentioned that you're high on the Lions this year. A lot of people are. Is there an off-season darling that you're maybe not sold on, though?
An off-season darling. I guess I'd have to have darling defined to me. I'm trying to. I mean, I guess.
A team that everybody is kind of hyping up a little bit.
I.e. the Jets.
Sure. Yeah, I think the Jets are probably that team, and I am on board with the Jets. I think that they're going to win the division and could make a run. As far as Las Vegas, the Super Bowl, frankly, I mean, I think that this could be another dropping Matthew Stafford or Tom Brady into a team that was otherwise ready to win. So I'm on board with the Jets. Maybe one team that we're always hyping that I'm not as on board with is Dallas. I think that their defense should again be very good. I really kind of question how things are going to go with Mike McCarthy getting back into play calling and this notion that he wants to run the damn ball. I mean, his words, and I don't know that they have the personnel to do that. I mean, Tony Pollard is obviously a really good player, but he's not a guy that you give the ball to 25 or 35 or 25 times a game. He's never proven to be that kind of guy, and I think if they try, they really run the risk of wearing him down.
Now, Sean Payton comments aside about Russell Wilson, Inc., there are 2 teams that I think could be significantly better than maybe the preseason pundits think. And it's weird, Nate. In a quarterback-driven league, it revolves around the quarterback. The Cleveland Browns and the Denver Broncos. Of those 2 teams, maybe it's relative to the division, but do you like either one of those teams to be better than maybe they're being given credit for in the preseason?
I had them both at 10 wins about a month ago when training camp started. I have since softened on the Broncos and have them back to about 8-9. Although that's about as of a week ago. It sounds like Jerry Jeudy might actually be able to play this weekend. I mean, we'll see what they get out of him. It's really unfortunate to lose Tim Patrick again for an entire season, because I thought he would have been a really nice piece specifically for Russell Wilson in terms of kind of an escape guy and a chain mover. I think Sean Payton's going to have a great impact there. And, again, we're talking about a team that was 5-12 last season, but I mean, as you guys know, being in the area that they lost, I think 9 of those 12 games by 7 points or less, I think, or at least one score or less. So, and we're really competitive in both our games with the Chiefs. And so I think just by basic luck regression, they'll get back closer to 500. And Sean Payton to me is, I'm a pro Sean Payton guy. So we'll see how long it takes for him to establish a culture there. He's obviously doing a lot of that, the Russell Wilson part of that very publicly. But I think that they're going to be okay. We'll see what Javonte Williams is, but I think the Broncos could be on the fringe of the wild card. I don't think they're going to make it. I mean, I think if they were the NFC, I might peg them as a wild card, but that is to say I like them. Cleveland I like better. I've kind of had them at 10 wins. I mean, to me, the AFC North is the best division in the NFL, and you can make a case to slot those 4 teams really in any order. I do have the Browns finishing 4th, but I have them winning 10 games. I mean, I think the defense is going to be really good, particularly with Tim Schwartz running it. The big question is how much better does Deshaun Watson fit in that offense after looking like a square peg in a round hole last year? I kind of question how it's going to go, given he loves being in the shotgun pretty much exclusively. But that's a team that's normally had Nick Chubb, lined up 7 yards deep on early downs. How's that all going to work? Are they going to be able to dovetail all these pieces for a team that has prodigious talent? It's just they've got to figure out how to make it mesh. But my guess is they will. I think frankly Kevin Stefanski's job depends on it this year. And I think that they'll be a good team. 10 wins in my judgment. Though again, I'm not sure that's going to be enough to get you a wild card in the AFC.
Nate, speaking of talent, you've got the 49ers, who are probably a top 2 or 3 roster in the league, but their championship hopes ride on a fairly small sample size of the last pick in the draft. How do you feel about Brock Purdy's ability to replicate what we saw from him last year over the course of a full season?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think obviously their actions say that they think that the elbow is fine, but I think his decision making is really what led to being where we are, letting Jimmy Garoppolo finally go, letting Trey Lance go, and being confident that this was their guy. And obviously Brock Purdy is not doesn't maybe have some of the physical traits that Trey Lance does in terms of being a guy that can make plays with his legs, but he has mobility. I think the main thing he has is all those starts at Iowa State, which just made him such a better decision maker, and just a more experienced player than Trey Lance. I think that's all they need, and we've kind of seen, given what they're doing, given the contract Nick Bosa got yesterday, that they're kind of doing what they'd hoped to do with Trey Lance, is just to build up what's really a fantastic roster with many guys that are near the top of their position groups league-wide, and drop in a quarterback in there on a rookie contract. And as you said, you're talking about a 7th rounder going into year 2. I'm sure Brock Purdy's going to get some small sweeteners to that deal with performance incentives and stuff. But I mean, to have a quarterback that's making next to nothing on a team that the only game he lost last year, guys, was the NFC Championship game when he got hurt.
Yeah.
Small sample size, but I mean, 8 starts isn't nothing either. He's got the locker room, and again, I mean, he comes in with a ton of college experience, which really helps these guys. I think that's why you're seeing Aiden O'Connell make such a big buzz out there in Vegas, and I think a lot of times that is a more important component than being able to run a 4-4 and plow over a defender. But I have a lot of faith in the 49ers having a big year.
Yeah, married and 26-year-old Aiden O'Connell. Nate, that matters. Real quick, we're under a minute, but is there a regression candidate in these favorites? The Eagles, the Bengals, or the Bills?
I've got all those teams in the playoffs. I don't have any of them really regressing. If I'm going to pick one, I mean, I think the Bills and the Bengals are both in pretty similar situations where they're really good teams, but they're both in really stacked divisions. So I would guess maybe just the Bills, given that they're, they've got to deal with a better Jets team last year. So I'll go with them, and at least they've got a healthy DeMar Hamlin and won't have the emotional toll they had to deal with last year.
Nate Davis, thanks so much for joining us. Hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, guys.
Thanks, Nate.
That's Nate Davis from USA Today. That does it for Benning and Lulla here on a Thursday. We will be with you again tomorrow to get you ready for Nebraska and Colorado.